This is Jocko podcast number 412 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Things changed suddenly on January 20th, 2016. It was a Wednesday, and we had taken our 4-year-old daughter, Ava, to the doctor. She'd been experiencing pain in her legs. At first, we thought these were growing pains, something every child experiences. But soon after, she started to experience severe bruising that just didn't make sense. She'd also had a series of ear infections, bad ear infections. The doctor told us that one of these infections was the worst they'd ever seen. It was pretty ugly stuff. I started to think something was really wrong. At around 2 p.m., the nurse drew blood for a test. They thought that Ava might have some sort of significant deficiency that was throwing her system out of whack, like a lack of iron. They put a rush on the samples and sent them to the lab. While waiting for the results, we had gone back home. My wife, Ashley, was making dinner when the lab called at about 6 p.m. They reported that there was something irregular in Ava's blood work and that we should expect a callback shortly. This was not the kind of thing we wanted to hear. 5 minutes later, Ava's doctor called. "You need to take Ava to the Stanford emergency room right now," he said. That was all he told us, but the urgency in his voice told us not to hesitate. We didn't have to be told twice. We entered the hospital through the ER and were directed to an individual room for immunocompromised children. A nurse led us to the room, and before she handed us off to other staff, she said something that took my wife and me off guard. "There's one piece of advice I have for you," she said. "I've seen a lot of things happen here, a lot of stories. Keep a date night for yourselves. You have to keep your relationship strong." Ashley and I just looked at each other. What the hell is that supposed to mean, I thought. For a split second, I considered telling her off, but I held back. Her words slowly began to make sense. It was like she had seen couples like us pass through these rooms for years, and she had. She knew we were in for a hell of a ride. After all, we wouldn't have been called in like this if it wasn't a big deal. Soon enough, we would figure out what this was all about. My father-in-law, Jeff, joined us in the treatment room with Ava as soon as he could. We sat there for hours until around 1 a.m. when a doctor came in. She told us that 2 more pathologists had looked at the blood test results and asked me if I wanted to step outside of the room to talk about their findings. We went out into the hallway to speak privately. "We're fairly certain your daughter has leukemia," the doctor said. "Are you sure?" I asked. "We're 99% sure." And that right there is an excerpt from a book called As Many Reps as Possible, written by Jason Khalipa. And Jason is an athlete, a CrossFit Games champion, a businessman, an author, a podcaster, and most important, a family man, a husband, and a father, where he has stood up to help his daughter fight a vicious enemy, and that is cancer. And he's here with us tonight to share some of his experiences and lessons learned along the way. Jason, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's definitely that's kind of the opening of the book, and it sets a stage for explaining your whole life and what the trajectory of your life and how this whole situation with your daughter impacted you, and really just a powerful story for sure. But we'll get into that. But let's start at the beginning. Let's start at you as a kid growing up and whatnot. So you're from California, right?
I'm from California, Northern California.
And born in 85?
85, yeah.
In where, San Jose?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what'd your mom and dad do?
My mom was a bookkeeper. My dad was an engineer. And my dad came here from Iran. My mom came here from Rhode Island.
From where? Rhode Island?
Yeah. So, I mean, her family was originally from Italy, but yeah.
You can't say my dad's from Iran and my mom's from Rhode Island.
But they met here in California, and yeah, it's all good.
And so they met, they got married. You got brothers and sisters?
I have one sister. She's older than me.
Older than you?
Yeah.
Did she bully you when you were a kid?
Bully me? Nah, not so much.
How much older?
She was like 3 years older, so just old enough where we were able to, be in high school 1 year together. So that helped my parents out.
Made it a little bit easier. And you're growing up, going to school, and you're playing sports. What sports are you playing?
Yeah, so growing up, my background, because I think it's because my dad, I was looking back on this just as a dad now, and your parents do the best they can with what they have. I'm confident that any parent, they want to be the best parent they can, but they lean on their experiences when they were children. So my dad came from Iran, and soccer was very popular there. My mom, she didn't really grow up with traditional sports, and so I played.
Well, they don't have a lot. I mean, that's way over in Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island. I don't know what's going on over there.
That's that's a very foreign place, right?
Yeah, very foreign. But so for me, I started off playing soccer, and then I ended up meeting a group of kids around my neighborhood. I got heavily into BMX bike racing when I was around 8 or 9 years old, and I competed in that until I was 15 and went to high school.
Dang.
So I competed
on
What kind
of bike did you have?
I started off with a GT, then I had a red line, then I had one called Bad, which was like a undercover brand, kind of.
Were you sponsored?
Yeah, at the time I was sponsored. Yeah.
How long is a BMX race?
Maybe, depending on the track, a minute, 2 minutes. I mean, it's not long.
So it's a hardcore sprint.
Yeah, and looking back on it, it's like that sport actually taught me a lot because you're on a gate with like 7 other guys. There's 8 guys on a gate. And here I am, a young kid, and the way it goes novice, intermediate, expert, and then when you turn 16, you can turn pro. So I raced at the expert level on a national circuit. And, when you're on the gate, it's pretty nerve-wracking. And you got to take the jump, and whoever hits that first berm first is probably going to win. And so I think it taught me a lot about mental toughness, individual sport. And then when I got to high school, I pivoted out of that sport.
So you're in the gate with 7 other kids.
Yeah.
How far away is the first berm?
Maybe 100 yards.
How long does it take
yards.
to get there? Is it like a 4-second sprint or something
it's
like
fast.
that?
I mean, it's all out. It's 100% all out. And there's obstacles in the way, right? So you need to learn how to go over the obstacles, and you got to learn how to just crank it. Looking back on it now, I used to, I wanted to win so bad. I would ride rollers in my garage. There's these essentially rollers. You put a bike on it and you just ride.
Okay.
And I would do that all the time because I just wanted to win. And it was a great sport at the time, but I ended up getting out of it. My parents didn't really support it as much, and I think it's because they saw how many injuries occurred from it. And so, I got hurt quite a few times doing it, but it was a great sport when it lasted.
How do you get hurt? Are you getting mangled up with other bikes?
Yeah, so I got hurt a few times. One time I broke my collarbone. That one really sucked. I was coming out the gate going super fast, and I don't know if something happened, but long story short, I went over the handlebars, and the helmet broke my collarbone when I hit my head. And then another time I was doing what they call a rhythm section. So you jump, but once you're in the rhythm section, it's hard to get out. And I ended up hitting my face and needing some nose surgery and stuff like that.
So you did that until you're 15. So you did that until high school.
That's right.
And then what sports took over?
Football and track and field. And so first day of high school, I remember I met one of my buddies, Jocko. He looks at me. I was a pretty big kid at the time. And he's like, hey, man, you got to come out for football. And so that's when I tried. And, I learned a lot through football. I made some of my best friends in the world from that. I think team sports are incredibly important. And, that became my sport for the next, throughout high school. I wanted to go on to play in college, and I didn't apply myself the right way. I was getting recruited a little bit. It didn't work out, and I ended up going to a junior college.
Echo, football questions, go.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you gotta play. So what position did you play? Obviously.
So my team, we did some pulling guard stuff.
Yeah.
So I was playing guard. At the time I was 260. So right now I'm 215.
You were 260?
I was 260. I was thinking about it. I haven't seen under 200 pounds on a scale since before I got into high school.
Oh damn.
And so,
how tall are you?
5'9.5",
260. But you got to be fast.
260?
I was pretty big, yeah. So I was playing defensive end and guard. And again, I look back on my high school, and this is something I'm thinking about just as a dad now, is like, I didn't reach my potential. I didn't reach my potential. And maybe my journey was already written, and that's when I got into CrossFit later on, et cetera. But, looking back on it, I do have some regrets about just the amount of time that I dedicated to sport versus dedicated to partying or doing other stuff. And, I want to help my kids not make the same mistake.
Were you guys lifting?
Oh, yeah.
So you were full on into it?
Yeah, we were lifting. We were doing a lot of stuff, but we were doing some stuff that was very unconventional. I remember one year, It was right before like the big game. And one of our coaches had read some literature about stimulating the muscle right before. And so what we did is we worked up to I'll never forget this. We worked up to a 1 rep max deadlift and then got on a bus to go to our game. Just cold. Just worked up to 1 rep max deadlift, got in a bus, and then went. Those are the kind of things we were doing. Like, strength and conditioning with one coach and 60 kids is tough.
Yeah. Okay, so what any other sports? You said track and field. What'd you do?
Yeah, I threw the shot there, and that was another example of like I performed well. I still don't think I reached my potential. I just didn't apply myself. You know, the thing about high school was like I was at a school that, and this is my own fault, but I was at a school that would just move you forward, right? And at the time when I compared myself to my peers, I was always even, meaning like as long as I was going from freshman, sophomore, junior, and I was getting okay grades, like we're all even. It wasn't until we applied to colleges I realized like, hey, like life doesn't owe you anything. Like you've been coasting, man.
I remember one time my son said to me when he was a little kid, like, some kids can't do any pull-ups. You know what I mean? Like he was making an excuse for only being able to do whatever.
Oh yeah, like
14 pull-ups. It's like, bro, what's wrong with you, you little savage? Like, what's wrong with you? And he looked at me like, Dad, some kids can't do any pull-ups.
Right.
And I'm just, hey, you cannot compare yourself to these kids that are sitting around doing nothing. You're not going to be like that, But that's a common thing to do. It'd be easy to say, well, hey, the kids can't even do any. I can do 10 or 12. I'm GTG.
Echo, good to go, baby.
Good to go.
And so as you're going through school, how are your grades? Is it the same thing with your grades? Like you're just kind of doing the bare minimum a little bit?
Yeah, they're fine. Again, like I said, the moment of like when I really woke up and I was like, oh, was when I applied to colleges. So my mom, my dad, and my sister all went to a school called Santa Clara University. My wife, my girlfriend at the time, because we met when we were 14.
Ashley.
She got accepted. So did all my best friends. They all got accepted to school, and I did not get accepted. And
why not? Grades?
Yeah. And that's when I realized, like, oh boy, my mom, my dad, my sister went there, and I still didn't get accepted. Like, something's up here. So, yeah, I ended up going to a junior college, and I applied again, didn't get in. I kept going to junior college, applied again, didn't get in. And then finally, when my high school transcripts were removed, I got accepted to Santa Clara.
So, anything else you're doing in high school though? Like you said, you mentioned partying. Like, are you guys out drinking? Are you getting crazy like that?
Yeah, I was one of those popular guys playing football. Just, I was just distracted. I was just having a good time, making a lot of friends, doing a lot of stuff, but I wasn't applying myself to my full potential in school or at sport.
Did you have any idea of what you're going to be doing in the future?
No, I didn't really think about it. It wasn't like a thought. And I think that's an area that with my kids, I want to try and navigate them through. I think as a parent, you're just trying to think like, what can I do to set them up better than the way I was going? And yeah, so I was just kind of moseying along. And then all of a sudden I got to junior college, West Valley. And I walk in for my first class, and it just woke me up. I wrote about this in the book, but like,
yeah, you got a good section here in the book. You say this, my first day at West Valley, let's just say the whole thing was a humbling experience. To be honest, I was a little embarrassed to be there. Not that I was above West Valley, but that I had wasted a lot of my time, talent, and energy, and I'd fallen short of my potential. The high school atmosphere that I loved was gone. High school had been about chest bumps, high fives, and having fun. There was a built-in structure, and you didn't have to think too much about it. I made the structure work for me, and it didn't take a lot of effort. I coasted, and all the way from timid freshman to school-ruling senior, I found a way to work the system. I did just enough to get by. I played sports because I had some natural size and athleticism. I hung out with my friends during the day, and we partied hard on the weekends. Come Monday, I showed up at classes I knew I needed to attend and skipped the ones I thought I knew I could. Signed, sealed, delivered. I graduated. Sounds familiar, right? When I sat down for my first core curriculum class at West Valley, the differences between my high school life and life in community college started to sink in. I didn't know anyone in the class, and it sent me into a bit of a spiral. I found myself in a big lecture hall with people of all ages and backgrounds. I looked around at the room for a familiar face, but all I could see and feel was change, a radical shift from everything I had known. My heart rate spiked, and I was scared. We were asked to introduce ourselves to the class. One by one, students stood up, gave their names, and offered up a personal detail or two. People were in that room for all sorts of different reasons, and they came from all walks of life. There was one woman sitting next to me who looked like she was in her early 20s. I looked at her. She stood up, hoping to establish some unspoken common ground with someone. It didn't turn out that way. I can't remember her name, but when she told the class, "This is my 7th year here," my heart nearly stopped. 7th year.
Dude, I remember that like it was yesterday. Like it was yesterday. I just remember this woman sitting next to me saying, "This is my 7th year," and I'd say to myself, like, I gotta get out of here. It was at that moment that I said to myself, like, this is 100% on me. I need to take, to your point, like ownership, extreme ownership of this situation, and get moving. So I went from that class immediately to a counselor, and I was like, I gotta get the hell out of here as fast as I can.
By the way, this whole time you've been working in a gym.
Yeah.
Since you were how old?
So I started working the front desk when I was old enough too. So I think it was like 15, 16. I started working the front desk because my parents used to go to a health club called Milpitas Health and Fitness. Shout out to my Milpitas Health and Fitness crew. And I started working the front desk on the weekends when I wasn't playing sports. And that was a really cool experience. You got to check people in, you got to, conversate with people, sell them stuff. It was a lot of fun. And when I went to college at West Valley, I started working full-time there.
So, and what was your full-time job? Full-time front desk in the beginning?
Full-time sales.
Oh, so you picked up into the sales position.
Yeah, so at that time, I was working the front desk when I went to college. 2 gentlemen, Joe Gigantino and Min Nguyen, really impactful in my life. Min Nguyen was the head of sales, and I would always see his commission checks when I was working the front desk, and I was always inspired by him. And anyways, he took me underneath his wing, and what I loved about sales was that the amount of hard work you put in was directly correlated to the amount of money that you would make. And so I would be able to go to school in the mornings and work from like 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., which was like peak time at a gym, get the walk-ins, get the leads, and just hustled. And at that point, I was making pretty good money throughout college for a college kid.
And what's interesting in the book is you talk about your first kind of 3 business investments in life. And it's cool that you put them in there, and it's always tough for people to talk about their mistakes and their shortfalls. So your first investment is in a product, and it's a product I couldn't make this up. The product is called Batter Blaster.
It was
Batter Blaster.
Echo. It was so good. It had so much potential.
So go ahead, explain what
Batter Blaster was. It was a pancake, organic pancake in a can. And so think about Cheese Whiz, right? So imagine Cheese Whiz. But instead of it being Cheese Whiz, it came out. So like, let's just say you want to make pancakes. Yeah. You got to make like the batter, you got to make all this stuff, and you can't just make one. But what if you just wanted one? And so this
Batter
guy,
Blaster.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, this was the thing.
Hell yeah.
And so I remember I invested.
How were they looking? Like, who was looking for investments in? How did you get in on this?
Well, Joe and Min. And so Joe and Min knew a guy who had created it. And so I tried it one day. I was like, wow, this is really good. I brought it to my family. They're like, wow, this is really good. So I invested like $5,000 into it, which at the time was a lot of money for me.
Yeah.
Yes,
and man, the sky was the limit. I was thinking, oh, dude, this Batter Blast is gonna be the next big thing.
You're picking out Cadillacs.
Yes, I was ready. And then all of a sudden it got into Costco. And there was a big opportunity. But I learned a valuable lesson there is that
it got into Costco, and that should be the
It got into Costco.
Buying Cadillacs, actually.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden, if my memory serves me correctly, it got into a big account. I believe it was Costco, but they couldn't keep up with the inventory and demand, so they needed to take on outside investment or something. And they had an opportunity to sell, but the leader of the organization at the time didn't want to sell for the amount of money they got. Right. And anyways, they couldn't keep up with demand, and they ended up shutting it down. That's what I believe I remember happening. Right. I remember my takeaway from that was that, when you're investing in people, like you have to, I didn't even know the guy we invested in. I just thought the product was cool, and I did it because my friends were doing it. I should have done more due diligence, understood that more. But it was a good lesson.
Yep. Batter Blaster.
So wait. So it came out, it was a can, it was pancakes.
Yep.
But did you have to cook it, or was it already just made out of the can? Like what was the deal?
No, you had to
put it into a pan.
No, you had to cook it. It was like the batter, right? You would just like spray a little bit in a pan.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
And then and the rest of it keeps in
you just put it back in the refrigerator.
In the thing. Okay.
Yep. Almost like a Cool Whip, like a.
But it makes pancakes.
Yeah.
Were you seeing the vision?
Well, if they couldn't keep up with demand, that means there was massive demand.
There was a few situations like that where I just wanted to feel like I was connected, like I was investing. And, these gentlemen were super impactful in my life. I would meet probably once or twice a week with Joe on the elliptical, and we would just talk all things business. As a young kid, I'm incredibly grateful for those lessons, because what I would do is I'd go to school in the morning. Remember, at this time, I'd kind of woken up. Like I was a hard worker at this time. I would go to school, I'd go to the work, and then afterwards I would ride the elliptical at night, and we would just talk business, and I would just try and pick his brain, because I knew at an early age that as soon as I graduated, I wanted to open a gym. I knew it when I was a sophomore in college.
What about this real estate investment that you did? What was this one?
Yeah, so
you bought some land in Idaho. We went on some land in Idaho.
Yeah, and that one ended up going bankrupt because I don't even remember exactly what happened.
Well, it's called a global economic meltdown.
Yeah, the economic meltdown happened. This is like 2007. I think it was like 2008, and then all of a sudden I lost my shirt on that. But my buddies lost more, and so at the time I felt bad, but I didn't really have anybody to vent to, because my buddies had lost a lot more money than me. I think I put another $5,000 into that one.
And then finally you had Faded Lifestyle.
Oh,
let's talk Faded Lifestyle.
Man, I have not Faded Lifestyle. So I'm so glad you brought that up. Wow, I haven't thought about that for a while. So a couple of buddies and I, we started a clothing company called Faded Lifestyles, and at the time, we were young kids. We were 17, 18, 20, 19 years old, and Faded was like, hey, are you getting, like faded, like drinking? And so we created a clothing line, and we would print our own shirts. We actually bought like
screen press,
and we made it ourselves, and we would go to clubs. I remember my cousin at the time was a club promoter in San Jose. And I just remember we'd get in, we wouldn't even be 21. And we got there, and we had Faded Lifestyle stickers on the back of our cars. And like, we thought we were so cool. We'd go up there, be like, hey, this party's brought to you by Faded Lifestyles. And we would just throw out shirts and stuff. We didn't end up selling much at all, but it was a good, the takeaway from that experience was I remember when we signed up for the business from the Santa Clara County, there wasn't enough space on the line for us to fill out the amount of people that were part of the company, because there was 4 of us. It's a lot of people when you're, so we put each person's name in. The learning lesson there was like partnerships, clear guidelines and expectations, and how, doing business with friends, you just have to be aware that, like, unless you set the expectation early and often, it could end up bad. And in our particular case, nothing was terrible, but it was a good lesson. But that one sank too, man. I lost.
How much money did you put in there?
I think I put another $5,000 or $7,000 into that one, because at the time, I was doing pretty good. Actually, some money I got from selling Nintendo Wiis, I put into Faded Lifestyle. So my girlfriend and I at the time, we would we wanted to get a Nintendo Wii for Christmas, but there was a high demand. So we ended up realizing that if you take these and you sell them on Craigslist, you can actually make money. So what we would do is we'd stand in line at Best Buy at like 5 a.m. on a Sunday. We'd wait for them. We'd get a Wii. We would then later on sell it on Craigslist. Then we ended up getting our friends to do it, and then each, because it's one per person. So we ended up getting a bunch of Wiis during Christmas time. We sold them and make money, and then I used that money to fund Faded Lifestyles.
Damn. Right on. All right. But what this does to you in the book, you talk about this, is basically put you in debt as you graduate from college, because you eventually did get transferred over to Santa Clara, and that was after it was on your 4th attempt, three rejections, 4th attempt.
Yeah, I thought I won the lottery, man.
How bad was your high school transcript?
Looking back on it, it must not have been very good, but I think it was probably like a 2.8 maybe. If I applied 3 times, it probably was pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay. But you eventually get in there, and now what was your degree in?
Business management.
You graduate, which is cool, and you're stoked, and now you roll out. And I got to go to the book for this, because it's kind of an interesting scenario that goes down and kicks off some of your future life here. So it says this. So you end up going to this interview for like a financial company. You go to this interview for a financial company, and basically the one of the women that interviews you said, hey, you did okay. Here's your next time for your next interview. You need to get a better suit for your next interview. This one's kind of, not up to speed. And you say in the book this woke me up, and the great wealth promised by a job in finance faded into the background. First off, did I really want to spend the rest of my life at work in a suit and tie? Was that what I wanted to be? Despite my best efforts, I had been told to come back looking sharper and better groomed for the next interview. What next interview, I thought. I walked out of the office and climbed the steps to the third level of the parking garage. My future career felt like it was a blazing 4-alarm fire. Sirens were blaring in my head. This was no joke. It was a good opportunity for a business grad, and it was a smart, comfortable choice. Was I in a position to pass it up? It was traditional and safe for sure, but was it me? My heart said no, absolutely not. It was a resounding and echoing no. This was 100% not for me. First off, if my best dress wasn't good enough for them, then why bother? Besides, this wasn't how I felt comfortable either. If I were to define my ideal dress style, I would characterize it as clothes in which I can move around in easily. Suits feel like straitjackets. However, attire wasn't the real problem. The problem was that I wanted to go into business for myself. I wanted to compete in the sport of business. I wanted that business to be in a world in which I was passionate about, fitness. I wanted to be my own boss and feel comfortable in my own skin. I wanted to be in an industry where I wouldn't be judged not by the price of my suit, but by my work ethic and results. The realization of my path poured over me. I was attracted to the uncertainty and discomfort of being an entrepreneur, not because of the risk and reward, but because it would force me to push the boundaries of what I was capable of doing. Perhaps I could sense that it was a pivotal decision. I knew that if I pursued financial services job, 10 years could fly by and I would regret that I hadn't taken the chance to do something greater. For all I knew, I could be the one sitting at that desk telling some recent grad to press his lapels better next time. I could never be that person, and being true to myself was far too important to ignore. The decision was made. I'll never forget the call I made to my dad while walking to my car. I'd never felt as sure of anything in my life as I did at that moment when I pulled out my cell phone and dialed. I knew that I needed to follow my passion, my why, and start my own business. The phone rang a few times. I was nervous, as you can imagine, but not because I wasn't sure of my decision. That was certain. I just wasn't sure what my parents would say. It rang again, and he finally picked up. Jason, how'd the interview go? Hi, Dad, I have to tell you something. I want to wear gym shorts and a t-shirt to work every day. I want to improve people's lives. I want my hard work to be directly related to my success. I want to open my own gym. It couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, let's do it, he said.
Yeah.
Damn, full support from the old man, huh?
Yeah, man. My dad, my mom, they're the best. They're the best. I am truly blessed to have phenomenal family around me, which came in there, but I mean, even tenfold that when Ava got sick. Yep. Tenfold.
And I forgot to mention this. Your dad had leukemia, a form of leukemia, when you were 14 years old or 15 years old, something like that.
When I was in high school, and he's struggled with that again, in the last couple of years. But yeah, he did, and so he was definitely a powerful voice during when Ava was sick in the hospital. Mm-hmm. But in regards to this, like, it was just one of those moments in life you look back on, and I really tried my best in that interview. And maybe some people listening can relate to this. I really tried to look the part. I wanted to get this job. And when this woman told me, like, hey, she said, you did a great job in the interview. You're charismatic, you're whatever. But when you speak to my boss, can you please wear a better suit? And I just remember saying to myself, like, really? That's the takeaway from this? Like, your takeaway is that I'm being judged based on my suit? I'm good. Like, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And, from that day forward, it started a slew of events that just like took off. So I graduated from college in July of 2008. I had signed a lease on a building. It was like 1,200 square feet. It was this junky warehouse that just I fell in love with the same week, right? And then I won the CrossFit Games like a week or two later.
So when did you get introduced to CrossFit?
2006. So when I was a sophomore, junior in college, I was introduced early. And
how'd that go down?
Austin Begebing, who I worked with at Milpitas on the Fitness, he said his mom had been looking at a website and we should try these workouts. And so at the time I'd played football, and then I got into more traditional like bodybuilding. Right before this, I got introduced to Sancho and Muay Thai, like Chinese kickboxing, mm-hmm. and obviously Thai kickboxing, and I really got into that. So I dropped from like 260 or 240 or whatever to like 215 because I was just getting lean. I was hitting Thai pads and focus mitts. It was great. I was sparring all the time. It was awesome. And when he introduced me these workouts, what we would do is we would just kind of cherry pick off the website. And in the beginning, I didn't really understand what intensity was. I didn't get the idea of intensity. So we would do these workouts and they were like, it's like, okay, cool. And then eventually the one that convinced me that I got really into was we would do 100 reps of bench press at 135 as fast as we can. Echo and I actually did this like, a month ago?
A month ago, yeah.
At the Origin Camp.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that got me. Because I remember saying to myself, like, I'm trying to get as much work done in as little time as possible. I'm racing the clock. And so what I fell in love with CrossFit was a coach, the community, the clock, and this idea of complexity. I really like the idea of learning new skills, whether that be a bar muscle up, snatching. It brought something to me that unlocked this idea where I was now learning, kind of like jiu-jitsu, where I was learning, but I was also able to train hard.
And you got into it, obviously.
Yes, yeah. So I got into it in 2006, and I pivoted what I wanted to do from owning a brick and mortar conventional gym to a CrossFit gym because I felt like it aligned with my why. Like, this is nothing against the conventional gym. It's just at that point, a lot of it was like, hey, what are your numbers? How much are you bringing in? How do we get more people in? Versus, hey, let's get some people in the door, but let's really make an impact on their lives. Let's have them walk away and be like, I would pay double for this service because you're doing such a great job. And I really connected with that idea of being a coach. Mm-hmm. So I started coaching classes, and then I opened our gym.
Where were you coaching classes at? One of the CrossFit gyms?
Yeah.
Did you go to a CrossFit level 1 seminar and whatnot?
Yeah. So I went to my level 1, and then I started coaching at the same gym that I was working at, the conventional gym. We ended up putting a CrossFit in there. And so it just really, I wasn't coaching for long before I opened my business because it just wasn't as common at that point. Like, we were kind of spearheading this movement along with many other people in the Bay Area, and we were all trying to just learn from each other. And I remember my first location, I signed a 6-month lease, and I signed it on the hood of this guy's truck. I'll never forget this guy. And he really gave me an opportunity. And the only reason why he gave me this opportunity is because I went to San Clemente University, and so did he. And I had no money. I had nothing to my name. And I think he just saw the drive, like, hey, I'm not going to let you down, man. Like, if you let me sign this lease, I'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. And I signed a 6-month lease. And I just told myself, I'm either going to be successful enough to outgrow it or I'm going to fail. And obviously, we just kept moving from there forward.
Mm-hmm. So you're training, when you were training now for the first CrossFit Games, when was the first CrossFit Games? It was 2007, right?
That's right.
So now you're going in, so now you had some idea from watching it from the outside what it was going to be like. You knew you had to be prepared for basically anything, but you kind of also knew the core methodologies and modalities of strength and fitness that you were needed to be working on. How hard were you training? Were you training like a psycho?
Yeah, but like back then, like swimming wasn't a part of the CrossFit Games, and the barriers, the margins were a little bit narrower than they are today. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was training hard, but at the time, training hard then was different than it is today. So I would challenge people on YouTube. So I would like, back then it was like OPT and this guy Bionic out of Florida. I would like do a challenge video. You can still find them on YouTube where you would do it and then you'd say, hey, like, can you get better than this? That's what I was pushing myself. And when I showed up for my first CrossFit Games experience, the model just worked for me. I had good events. I was training hard, but back then it was just once a day. It was like a big deal. As I grew with the sport, because I competed for the next about 10 years. So from when I started to when I retired from the sport, there was a significant difference in the way people trained.
Yeah. But this first CrossFit Games that you got ready for, you were pretty much training once a day, hard, but you would say you're not going as hard as you would end up training later?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, when you think about like, and this is something I reflect on a lot, is like anything in life that's like really worth something is you put so much work and dedication into it that when you achieve it, it's like, wow, it's that moment. The 13 and 14 games meant a lot more to me than 08, because in 08, when I won, like, it was great, but I hadn't put in bulk of years of work to get me to that point. You know, I got, you know, I was pretty fit, and I got lucky with some of the events, and I remember
what events were you good at in 2008 that helped you win it?
So there was a short hill run. I didn't do that great. I mean, it was like a chest to bar Fran. That was the first year they ever introduced a chest to bar pull up, which was like unheard of at the time. And getting your chest from like your chin to the bar is much difference. And then they did like a burpee deadlift. I did good in all of them. But the way that year worked, which was unique and it will never happen again, was it was called Every Second Counts. And the way they did it this year is that each one of the workouts had similar time domains. So nowadays I would never fly because you want to work different systems. Mm-hmm. But what they did is they accumulated your time throughout the events. There was 3 events on Saturday and then 1 event on Sunday, something along that line. And they accumulated your score. And then based on where you sat, that's how they staggered you for the finals. So in the finals, I started like 1 minute and 50 seconds behind the person in first. And one by one, they went based on where they staggered until they got to me. So I was like in 8th place. And then whoever won that event won everything. Because if you caught up with the person in front, you won everything. So that was...
And what was the final event?
Oh man, it was beautiful. It was 30 squat, clean and jerks for time. And at the time...
With what weight?
155.
Okay.
And so it was a squat, clean, and jerk. And at the time, most people were doing a squat, clean, stand, reset, jerk, right, for 30. I asked the question to Boz, who was the head judge at the time, can we basically cluster it? Yeah, thruster it. He said yes. So from the get-go, so it was like Spieler started, then a bunch of other people started. I'm just watching them. I'm just like sitting there, just like, chomping the bit, ready to go. And I was not the favorite to win at all. No one even knew who I was. And I clustered, or I basically squat, clean, thrustered all of them, and I ended up winning. And that was a cool moment for me.
Could those guys see what you were doing and start to turn up their pace and start to cluster as well?
A little bit, but at the time, it's like they didn't even know I was like relevant because everybody was watching Josh Everett at the time, who had an Olympic lifting background. He was like in 4th place, so like he was the favorite going in. And I was kind of like, I'm in 8th place. Who the hell thinks a guy from 8th place is going to catch up? And so no one was really watching. I just remember, it's like...
And it was only 30?
It was only 30. But back then,
so what was the total time on that?
It was like 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
So how did you make up 1 minute and 56 seconds in that short amount of time?
I'd have to look back on it, but it's because, for example, Chris took 6 minutes to finish, right? And then the other guy took 5. I just did it significantly faster than them. And it's so funny because after I won, you watch, there's a movie called Every Second Counts, and you just see Josh Everett's face like, what? Like no one knew. Like it was a cool moment.
Did Josh come in second?
Josh came in second, and then I think it was Jeremy Teal took 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
Now all of a sudden you're a freaking CrossFit champion. And this is, I'm trying to think of how big CrossFit was in 2008. It's definitely on the rise for sure. We had the CrossFit here at Victory at that time. We started that, we got the thing in 2007 and we opened the gym in January 2nd of 2008. But so CrossFit's pretty big. What was it like from like a game changer for you as a person that was literally unknown? Yeah. And then you win the world championship.
Well, so at that point, social media wasn't super prevalent. There was blogs that were available. I just remember I won, and my friends and I went to In-N-Out Burger, and we just when I won the CrossFit Games, I won like $2,000 and a pair of shoes. And I was not doing this for the money, the fame, the fortune. I was doing it because I just wanted to test myself. I wanted to see how do I stack up. And from that day on, I just told myself I just had specific rules when it came to training. I will never do this for the money and the fame. I'll do it because I want to see where I stack up. And I'll never say no to someone who wants to take a picture with me. Those are like just simple rules, because eventually that was going to end. And so I got home, and our gym obviously got like an influx of members. But at the time, you weren't making enough to live off of in CrossFit like you can now. And so I was still running a business and training. And then, I then competed in 2009. I competed for the next 10 years. I worked for CrossFit, all that kind of stuff. It just stemmed a whole lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. When you say an influx of members, is it like crazy? Well, at what point did you have to get a bigger gym?
So we moved out after 6 months, but not because of the CrossFit Games. I think people have this misconception about people who become famous or do something. You might attract people to your business, but if you're not a good person, or if you treat people inappropriately, or if you're not a good coach, just because you're a good athlete doesn't mean you're a good coach.
True.
And I was coaching all the class at the time. And so we saw an influx, but not gazillions of people.
It wasn't a game changer.
No, I mean, it definitely helped, but it wasn't a game changer.
Right.
And then from there, we expanded our second location, and then we moved on from there.
So now, are you starting to think in 2009 or 2008, the rest of 2008, you're starting to train to win again?
Yeah, that's
I
right.
assume.
Yes.
So did you change anything about how you were training? Did you learn anything? Like what was the adjustments you made?
I mean, at the time I was working really hard. I was the only coach at our gym, and we had to be successful. And so it was long days, and I would just get in my training during off hours. So I'd get there for the 5 a.m. class, 6 a.m. class. Middle of the day, I'd hit a session, and then I'd hit a little bit of session because I was just at the gym all day long. Mm-hmm. And so my training changed because instead of being at the conventional gym or whatnot, I was at a boutique brick and mortar CrossFit gym with no one else around during off hours. So I would just train. And that helped me a lot. Going into 2009, though, I learned a lot of, from a mental perspective. I ended up getting a mindset coach. This is later on in my career. I wish I had had one earlier because in 2009, I went in there as the current champ, and I became, I thought that I needed to fire myself up on, hardcore music, this and that. I started off with a 7K hill run, and I was getting married the week later. Mm-hmm. And I got on this hill run. I was the current champ, just too much nerves, too much anxiousness. And I ended up passing out, and I ended up getting back up. I took basically last in that event. I ended up coming back and taking 5th that year, but I learned a lot about myself. Like I built some confidence up that like, when I passed out and Dave Casher was like, hey, if you don't continue, like your games are done. I felt good that I got back up and finished, but I had to ask myself, why did I even get in that place in the first place? That was 2009.
So I actually watched that video yesterday of you just gassing out. I mean, it's the definition of gassing out when you see you.
Yeah.
Was it you just ran so hard that you literally gassed out and you just didn't have anything? I mean, you fall down. You fall down. You fall down.
I blacked out. Yeah. I don't think it has anything to do. I think looking back on it, it was just that I had headphones on and I was listening to like Eminem and Tupac. I don't even know what I was listening to, but I was listening to stuff that was like high adrenaline. And I think I made this mistake. I ended up making this mistake again the next year, which I shouldn't have, but I did, where I thought that I had to like put myself in a state of fired up. But you're going to be fired up when you hear that 3, 2, 1 go gun go off. And I utilized too much of my adrenaline, and I just depleted all my resources. And I had false impressions of how well I should have done on that event. I needed to just chill. I ended up getting Poison Oak that year because we crawled up one of the hills. And I mean, it was gnarly. It was a gnarly 7K hill run. But the learning lesson there was not that I went too fast. It was that I did not conserve energy enough for that moment. And mentally, I became just broken.
But the cool thing is, number one, and again, this is in the video. You can watch this video on YouTube. I forget the link, but Castro comes over, like you're laying on the ground, and you in the book you describe this. You're laying on the ground, and you describe Castro coming over and being like, "Hey, dude, if you don't get up, you're out." And you go back to him like, well, "What's the phrase you say? I'm going to do this absolutely." And you can watch this all in the video. It's just like, and then you have to recover. You have like a half an hour to recover.
Yeah.
And then
deadlifted. Yeah.
And then you're getting into the next part of the games, right?
Yeah.
So it was basically a very, what they say in fighting is, when a guy gets tested, you can have a guy that's a champ and he knocks this guy out in the first round, chokes this guy out in the second round, beats this other guy in the first round, and then finally gets the championship match. And they get tested 5 rounds, not just 5 rounds, but 5 grueling rounds. And people say they get tested. Even if they lose, they're like, well, he got tested. He lost the decision, but he kind of passed the test of he's going to be able to push through stuff. And it seemed to me like that's what that CrossFit Games was for you, because you, for all practical purposes, could have been like, yeah, I've obviously got something wrong with me and I'm out. But you didn't. You actually came back and came in 5th, right?
Yeah.
And I think you came in, was there 75 competitors when it started?
Yeah.
And you came in 75th on the first event.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something I think about that often other than every day, but the way that it went is they made cuts. So if I had taken last place in like day 2, I would have won the game, because I got last place with the way the point system worked was it favored the earlier events more because they had more competitors. And then throughout the weekend they made cuts. So at the end, if you took last place on that event, it wasn't the same disadvantage than if you did in the beginning. But in either case, right, I didn't perform, I didn't win, took 5th. So I won what they call the Spirit of the Games Award that year, which was cool, which, signified to me, to your point, like, I've never done CrossFit because I want to like make a buck or whatever. I did it because I love the push. I love seeing like, where do I stack up? Like, why do I do all these hard things? It's because I enjoy that feeling of like accomplishment, not just at CrossFit, but all the other things I've done,
So what'd you change in your training? Oh yeah, but so you got married, right? You're covered in poison oak and you get married?
Yeah, that sucked.
Your wife's like, who am I marrying? Dude, an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had poison oak on my hands and yeah.
Good times.
Yep.
Good honeymoon, I'm sure. What did you change in your training now going into 2010? Like,
it was just more volume. 2010 things really, for anybody who's like a CrossFit historian, which I don't know how many there are out there, but 2007, 8, 9.
That's a good question.
2007, 8, 9 were all at Dave Casher's ranch.
Yeah.
They ended up going back there during the year of COVID, but nonetheless, it switched to the Home Depot Center in Southern California in Carson. And at that point, like, we really felt we made it, man. Mm-hmm. Reebok came on as a sponsor. Progenics actually came on as a big sponsor. And like the prize purse went from like $5,000 to $25,000. It was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I get down there in the first event, the national anthem plays, they have jets fly over. I am so fired up. And I went in there as the favorite, right? Because I have a 1st and a 5th. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons that year. I think that my performance wasn't quite there. After that, I ended up really, just creating a training environment that was conducive, starting doing double-a-days, and then boom, just had a lot of good years after that.
Did you make any fatal mistakes in 2010?
Yeah. For the first
what was
event.
the fatal mistake?
I just went out too hot in the first event.
Same thing.
Oh yeah.
What was the first event?
It was called Amanda. So Amanda, here's the thing about it. The first event of the CrossFit Games 2010 was all about how fast can you move with complex movements and still be able to connect your brain with your body. Mm-hmm. So it starts off and it goes squat, snatches, and muscle ups. And it's 9, 7, 5. That's it. It's nine muscle ups, 9 squat snatches at, I think, 135, 7, 5, 5. That's it. So I get through the 9, 9, I'm winning. I get through the 7, 7, I'm winning. I get back to my 5, and my body just turns numb, and I can't connect it. So I start doing singles, 1, 1, 1. I get back. I'm still in the game. And then it's the last 5 squat snatches, and I just break down. I end up, they call them now the burpee bar chasers. Because what would happen is I'd receive it at the bottom, and then I just could not connect my brain, and I just would drop it. I ended up taking like middle of the pack or like last place on that. It was bad, and I laid on that floor for a solid hour before they had to cart me off. Like I couldn't function. Where I have had my faults in competition is that I'd rather like not die. That's an exaggeration. But I'd rather like black out than not go at my best effort.
So this is like a Prefontaine. You know who that is?
Prefontaine?
Prefontaine, the runner. He's like one of the most iconic American runners ever. They call him Pre. And he would run so hard that sometimes he would win first place by a great distance, and sometimes, including in the Olympics, he would fall apart. Like he would literally just gas himself out and would come in 5th or something. Yeah. The guy he would just kill. So it sounds like you had a little Prefontaine going.
I did. After that year though, I ended up having a good run. So after that, it was like I took a 1st, a 5th, a 16th, a 7th, a 5th, a 2nd, and a 3rd. And then I went team for a year.
So you in 2011, you renamed your gym to NorCal CrossFit. Is that right?
2000. So no. So in 2008, it was CrossFit Santa Clara.
Right.
Then we opened up another location. We called that CrossFit Mountain View. Then we opened up another location. We started saying, hey, if we have all these different locations, right? Because we had some key talent. What should we should put them underneath one umbrella. So we called it NorCal CrossFit.
Got it.
And we kept it as NorCal CrossFit. I want to say it was like maybe 2010, 11 through 2016. Mm-hmm. And then at that point we said, hey, we want to be in control of our own destiny. We also are not only offering at the time CrossFit, we're offering a variety of different services. So we branded it NC Fit. And I learned a lot through that experience. A lot of mistakes were made. But that's why we were NorCal CrossFit, is to be indicative of multi-locations in the Bay Area. And then we rolled out NC Fit. And at the time, like 2011, 12, we also then started expanding globally with Western Digital, which that was a whole nother.
What's Western Digital?
They're like
a company, right?
Yeah, so they're a giant company that just acquired SanDisk, a few years ago. They make all kinds of different products, and they have locations all over the world. So what happened with that is, from a business perspective, let's just talk about 2011, 12. We'd opened up multiple locations in the Bay Area. I then started doing corporate wellness. So I would show up at these companies at like 5 a.m. and start bringing kettlebells and dumbbells. And what we found was that the connections that were being fostered in our gym, we could bring them to companies because that shared suffering, that connection. All of a sudden, you're having HR talk to legal, and instead of them just leaving like an email on the debt or an email there, they'd be in the gym and be like, hey man, just to let you know, I shot you an email. Boom, it increased productivity and it created really strong connections. So we ended up doing a deal with GoPro. We worked with Twitter. We worked with all kinds of companies, but Western Digital, at the time it was called HGST, and then it became Western Digital, was by far our biggest partner. And for 10 years, we serviced our locations all over the world. So in 2011, 2012, we expanded from maybe 4 brick and mortar, I want to say, to 20. And so I ended up traveling all over the world, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines.
Were all those other additional 16, were all those just to service Western Digital?
That's right. And so we ended up owning multiple locations and then operating many. And we ended up getting other corporate wellness accounts. And so, yeah, that just was a super interesting relationship because I ended up learning how to connect with people from different countries. You'd be out in the Philippines. We had 3 locations in Malaysia. It was really cool. And that we fostered a strong culture for 10 years, and we had to hire people. So, we were hiring a lot of people, and that was an amazing experience.
How many people did you end up working or worked in the company? I
think at our largest, we had about 140 employees. Now we're, a little less than half that, and things have just evolved.
Yeah.
But yeah, from that point on, essentially the way our business was ran is NC Fit. We owned and operated brick and mortar, then we operated some, and then we rolled out a digital model to service gym owners and coaches, which really has done well for us over the years.
Mm-hmm. Now in 2013, you got second place in the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
And what was going on? Did you modify your training? What was the deal? How'd you do so well that year? And why didn't you win?
Oh, dude, I thought I was going to win. Damn it, Rich Froning.
That's a good reason not to win.
2012, 13, and 14, I was able to represent the United States on Team USA, which was really cool too, with Rich. But anyways, it was just a good year. I won this half marathon row. I won a lot of events, and it was just a really good year because in CrossFit, a lot of times when you win an event, it happens very quickly. Like you don't know you're going to win. You just boom, make it. But that year there was multiple events, one called the Burden Run, and where I knew I was going to win before I won. And so it was just like
describe the Burden Run.
So the Burden Run was a 3-mile run. You came in, you flipped what they called a pig, which was like a multi-100-pound item across a football field. You carried a log like 200 meters, and then you pulled a sled. And when Dave briefed it the night before, I just had this vision of like what it would be like to walk in the stadium first. And I knew that if I went into the stadium first, a soccer stadium, I was going to win the event because I wasn't going to be outpulled on a sled. And so I wasn't going to allow it to happen. So I had this vision, and I ended up getting there first by a decent margin. And so I said to myself, hey, don't get too comfortable. Take that sled, get it halfway, and then take it all in. So I ran in there, boom, I grabbed the sled, I went as hard as I could halfway, and then I looked around, there was no one else still in the stadium. And the way that worked was like a win was a win. Didn't matter if you finished in 10 minutes or whatever. It didn't matter as long as you won. So I took a moment to kind of take it in, to realize all the hard work I'd put in and then finish it out. So that year was a lot of those type of events. I just felt really good. Rich had some incredible performances right at the end, caught me and took first. And yeah, obviously that sucked, but I was still proud of my achievement because at that point, right, I had fought so hard for so long. I'd won my region every year. I'd won all these other events. I'd won all these things, but I couldn't get back on the podium for multiple years. So to get back on the podium was an amazing accomplishment. And the following year, I got back on the podium, and my kids were able to get on it with me, which was really cool.
And Froning's an animal.
He's okay.
What about your fuel intake? What are you doing at this point?
By the way,
as far as food,
I love Rich. I was just with him last week at the Rogue Invitational.
No, I actually just met him for the first time at the CrossFit Games. He's just a freaking awesome guy, total stud, super nice and humble and cool. Just a great dude for sure. Dude,
100%. When it comes to fuel, I think that back then, so there's been evolution in CrossFit. So in the early days, it was like, dude, just train your face off, go as hard as you can, which was obviously what I did, and then you're going to do well. Then it kind of evolved to like, hey, it's all about pacing. I had a coach called Chris Hinshaw who really taught me about pacing and cadence, and that really helped me with my running to get my times down. Then it evolved to like, okay, no longer do you want to smash your face. Pacing is important, but now what are you feeling yourself with, and how's your recovery? Mm-hmm. And so it evolved kind of after my time, but during the time I was training so much, typically 3 times a day, that I just kind of ate what I felt like I could. So my morning session would typically be fasted cardio, which I still do today, 30 to an hour of just like hard cardio, just right in the morning. Then
what's your cardio variants? What do you do?
Like typically I just like the bike. Mm-hmm. I like any type of bike. Sometimes I'll run, but sometimes I'll row, but in general, I'll just bike. I just like
outdoor bike, or like a bike in a
like a bicycle, like an air bike, or even like a Concept 2 type bike. Okay. Just something to get my heart rate elevated. Typically what my mornings look like today are my daughter and I train in the mornings. And so I'll train her, and then I'll go ahead and do some cardio, and then it'll just kind of jumpstart the day. Nothing crazy. I don't like lifting and getting too wild that early. I need to kind of prime up. But anyways, back to the day, I would do a midday session, which is like very CrossFit. So I'd have a crew that would just come. We would just create this atmosphere, just this fun atmosphere. And for any future CrossFitter listening to this, the money, the fame, it doesn't come fast or easy. Surround yourself with like-minded people where you could really enjoy the experience, because that's something you could do for a long time. And that's what we had in NorCal. It's just a group of just hard chargers who just got after it. So I would do that for like 2 hours midday. And then in the evening, I would work.
So hold on. Midday workout is a CrossFit-esque workout, you're saying?
Yeah.
Meaning like a Metcon, meaning what, like, and how's it taking 2 hours?
Because typically what we would do, so you have the fasted cardio in the morning, and then midday, you would do like a CrossFit session. So what we would do is like we'd warm up with like with a hard EMOM. Then we would get into some type of strength. Then we would do some type of 3 minutes on, 1 minute off for 10 rounds. And so by the time you're done with all that, especially a strength session in the middle, you're like 2 hours, 90 minutes. And then in the evening, I would work stamina work. And this is where like countless times my wife and I would she'd come into the garage, she'd be like, Jason, dinner's ready. And I'd come in sweating my ass off just with my, and because I would be working stamina. So I would do like a 20-minute EMOM of strict handstand push-ups, or a 20-minute EMOM of strict chest to bar pull-ups, something where I was trying to enhance my gymnastic stamina.
Mm-hmm. What was your area of weakness?
That, yeah.
Gymnastics stamina.
Yeah. So it wasn't just so the way I think about it is not just like contractile potential. It's not just like a one-time, like pure, like I could do one muscle up. It's how quickly do you fatigue out, right? Like think about the same thing with push-ups. Like it's a muscle stamina issue. Like you could perform one really well, but if I ask you to do 100, what happens? So when you start adding in these EMOMs every minute on the minute, you start creating goals based on that minute. And now all of a sudden you could adjust that minute goal as you improve. So an example, every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, 10 chest to bar pull-ups. This is one I would do probably once or twice a week. And once you accomplish that, then you could add to 11, maybe 12. But now you're using the clock as an indicator of your success instead of just arbitrarily asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so so this is your 3 workouts. Fasted cardio in the morning, kind of a little bit chill, not like relaxing, but you're not going psycho. A long workout in the midday, that's going to be CrossFit kind of based.
Yep.
And kind of long for CrossFit, like maybe multiple CrossFit workouts. Like if you think about it, what you just said is kind of multiple CrossFit workouts.
That's right.
And then in the evening, it's this stamina situation that usually are taking around 20 minutes. Okay, so you're freaking tired. And are you doing any stretching? Are you doing any ice bath? Are you doing sauna? Are you doing anything like that?
Yeah, so the cold and hot therapy wasn't as popular like now I do, right? So I have a cold plunge, I have a sauna. Obviously I do a lot of jiu-jitsu now. My training's different now, but back then I wouldn't really expose myself to hot and cold. I wish I had, but I would just like listen to my body, and I would just say, what does my body need? And if it needed broccoli and rice, great. If it needed just like peanut butter and honey, which is like my go-to before workouts, great. But I would just try and be really in tune with what I was feeling and how I want to do. And that's the way that I trained. And I would program for myself so that if I was feeling good, like I'm going for PRs. If I'm not feeling good, like I'm just trying to get through it, have a good session. But I wanted to align my expectation with how I was feeling. Mm-hmm. It was really important to me.
And where are you getting your protein from?
Obviously.
And are you thinking about it? Is it a big deal? Are you like did you ever count like macros?
Yeah. So over my span of career, I've done like hardcore zone. I've done full paleo. I've done full carnivore. I've tried every nutritional plan you could think of. But what I ended up coming down to is like, I think about like a discipline bucket. I only have so much discipline in my bucket. I was using it very, very, very for all my training, my business, my family. I was really using a lot of discipline. When it came to food, I was just fueling my body with what felt right.
Yeah, and when you're working out that freaking hard, I mean, you can pretty much eat whatever you want. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and I mean,
as long as you're getting enough protein.
That's right. And so I was fortunate that Ashley would always have great meals at home. I'd always have access to protein, et cetera. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, for me, like nutrition could have been optimized for inflammation if I could look back on it, because what you're trying to get down to is how fast can I recover. So if I was able to recover faster through anti-inflammatory type foods, or not, if I have a slight allergy to gluten or dairy, I just didn't even think about those things. I didn't care. I should have cared.
Mm-hmm. So 2014 is your last. Is that the last time you did the individual competition of CrossFit?
That's right.
And how'd you feel that year? Because you got third place.
Oh, I felt great.
That's a good run.
Oh, it was a great run. So every year my wife and I would have a conversation, and we'd say, hey, what are we doing this year? Because it wasn't just me. She made just as many sacrifices as I did, if not more. And so the way that my season ended up being was a lot. From 2011 till 2016, 15, like I competed year round. The reason why is that I was invited to compete for Team USA. So what would happen is you'd have an online open, which is like everybody does it. You have to perform. Then from there you go to regionals. Then from your region you go to the games. And then if you perform well enough at the games, you get invited to go represent your country. And I did that for multiple years in a row. So it was a lot on the family. And for me, I remember specific times where like there was sacrifices that were made. We'd go to parties and something, and I would be like, Ashley, I got to go home. Like I got to go sleep. And that is a drain on our relationship. And so that year in going into 2014, we had our talk. Like after the games, we'd always go on a vacation. We just sat down. We're like, hey, where are we at this year? She's like, Jay, I just can't do it anymore. Like, so from 2012, she'd be like, I got a little bit more in me. 13, she's like, I got a little bit more in me, but not much. 14, she's like, dude, I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I never got into this for money, fame, or whatever. My relationship to my wife is the most important thing. And so I chose to go team the following year. And the team was great.
Yep. And so to talk about that team. Well, first of all, you got third place in 2014. And I mean, that's freaking badass. Like, just being on the podium against the best people in the world it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good year. So I won my region. So I did well in the open. I won my region, took third at the games, and then our team ended up winning for Team USA. So that was like a good run. Mm-hmm. And then the following year, I ended up going team. Our team was just absolutely killing it. We had the best team. It was incredible. We won our region. We won everything. It was great. And then we get to the games, and we're like multiple days into the games, and we're doing really well. We're up by hundreds of points. It looks like we're the winner. And one of our teammates tore ACL, and I did not do a good job detaching, which we could talk about that from a leadership perspective. And there's some things I wish I had done differently at that moment, but I was so invested into winning. I was emotional. My ego was in the way. It was just all kinds of stuff. She tears her ACL, and we end up taking 10th that year because we just couldn't continue competing. That was heartbreaking for everybody.
So how did your emotion and your ego play into that?
So, we're on the field and we're up by, like I said, hundreds of points. Miranda's doing what if I'm not mistaken, it was a power clean, and she catches it a little bit off, and her knee buckles. And they diagnosed her with the torn ACL like immediately. And at the time, like you had just spent so much time and effort for this moment. Like
and victory's right over there.
And victory's right there. And like, it was very hard for me not to be like, well, we could compete with 5 people, still put her in, wrap it up, let's go. Like, I was just thinking like, how can I still have her on our team? How can we still win? Because that was the goal. Like, and I just had blinders on, I was so competitive. I'm a pretty competitive person, and I couldn't detach from my perspective. My perspective was, dude, I came here to win. I didn't come here for second. I came here to win. And every year at the games, that was my perspective, because I think that's important as a competitor. And her perspective was probably, dude, I just tore my ACL and I need surgery, all this stuff. And I probably wasn't a great friend then, right? Obviously my ego got in the way because I felt like we were the best team. And obviously that happened. And then I was emotional. And, I just had such a tight relationship with the CrossFit HQ team that it allowed me just access that maybe other athletes wouldn't have had. And, I wish I had handled that situation differently. But as a competitor, all I want to do is win. And looking back on it, what I needed to do from a leadership role, because I was playing a leadership role on that team, is like, just take a step back, just take a deep breath and be like, dude, am I detaching from my ego, my emotion, my perspective? And I wasn't. I didn't even know about that theory back then, but looking back on it now.
What would you have done? What would the call have been? Like, okay, hey, we're out? Like,
the call would have been, I would have regrouped us. I would have sat down and said, okay, what are our options? We would have been told our options, and we would have done the best we could given our options, and not have been emotional about it. Not have tried to call Dave Castro 40 times. Not have tried to, change the rules for us or whatever.
So you just freaked out.
Yeah. And a lot of that had to do with just like the current. It was just. Anyway, looking back on it, it's funny how your perspective shifts as you get older, But that was a defining moment. That really was. And it was a defining moment for Miranda, because she went on to go create a beautiful business. Had we have won, I don't know if she would have started that. And secondly, had we had won, we would have probably started training for 2016 hard. And that was when Ava got diagnosed. So I would have been out anyways. So it's a very interesting, it's just, yeah.
What business did Miranda go into?
She started a company called Street Parking, which is for at home garage gymmers. Primarily, she a lot of her base is with women, and she's just done amazing.
And where do people find that if they want to check out Street Parking? Is it streetparking.com or something?
I believe so.
Okay.
But you can just look up
Miranda Street Parking.
Yeah, I think her IG is Fearless Miranda.
Okay. Yeah, you just mentioned 2016. This is kind of what I opened the book with, or opened the podcast with, and it's what the book opens with. I got a little excerpt here I want to read from the book. You're talking about the fact that you're tracking, Ava every day. You're kind of watching and paying so much attention to her health and her kind of vital signs and all that stuff. And you say this. One day we saw a shift. We noticed a very subtle change in Ava's vital signs, and without hesitation called the doctor in. Unfortunately, it quickly became clear that this was not the good kind of shift. What had started very subtly turned into a sharp, severe drop in blood pressure. With a quick turn of his head, the doctor momentarily shifted his attention from Ava and looked at us. Even before he spoke, his eyes made clear to us the seriousness of the situation. His words were clear and direct. If Ava's blood pressure doesn't come up in the next 2 minutes, I want to prepare you for what will happen. I will call a rapid response team. We will need to act without interference. It will be a lot of people. I gripped Ashley's hand firmly. 2 minutes later, he called in the rapid response team, and 20 emergency medical clinicians rushed into the room. I've never been more frightened in my life. The lead doctor, to whom I will forever be grateful, spoke with clear yet undeniable urgent direction to the entire team. Each member had a specific responsibility. It was the most inspiring expression of teamwork I have ever seen. Ashley and I could only stand back and watch. We held our breaths, not speaking a word. It was obvious that our daughter's life was not in our hands, but theirs. We quite simply, after all our watching and reading and waiting, had no control. After what seemed like a lifetime of intense discussion, followed by quick action, infusion, and medication, the tone changed. Ava was rolled out of the room and taken to the ICU, but the frantic pace had noticeably slowed. The tone went from life and death to one of optimistic concern. I remember looking at Ashley as we went upstairs, asking, "Did you hear how their voices changed?" She responded, "Yes, definitely." The whole situation only lasted 10 minutes. But in that 10 minutes, we experienced nearly every human emotion possible. That to me, you know, when I read that, it's emblematic of what you're going through as a dad the whole freaking time.
Yeah.
You know, that's like one moment, but there's also weeks that are like that. There's also 20 seconds that are like that. Like, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, it's tough, you know, because when you read that, it just brings me back to that exact same situation. But it's the greatest gift the CrossFit Games ever gave me was the ability to create a mindset where I had to go find a coach to learn how to use positive self-talk, to learn how to understand what's in my control versus out of my control. And those were skills that transferred not only on the field, but in real life. And I'm very grateful for the CrossFit Games for that. And the positive self-talk thing is just so important. And in this particular case, like, it was just so heavy. It was so heavy. It was so bad. It was just a lot. You know, my wife and I spent months and months and months in the hospital. And, you know, we've gone through our fair share of not that good of times. That was the worst. That was the worst because it was like really clear to me that like something was really, really wrong. And all I could grasp onto was the lessons that I had learned through overcoming adversity in the gym, which is I think why everybody should work out. And then also on the competition floor, which was you got to find the small nuggets. You got to find something to hold on to. And you got to understand what's in your control. What was in my control at that moment was obviously supporting my wife and supporting my daughter the best I could. But a lot of it was out of my control. And I can't focus on that. I need to focus on the positive, which was the tone change. And we decided to connect on that. You know, Ash and I, we connected on that, and it helped us. And we ended up spending, you know, some time in the ICU, and it wasn't ideal.
So when Ava gets diagnosed, how long was it from, hey, we're 99% sure that she has leukemia, to like she's getting, and did she get both chemo and radiation treatments?
Yeah, so not radiation. By the way, I should acknowledge the fact that Ava is now 5 years out of treatment, so she's cancer free.
Yeah.
I just, for anybody listening, it's like, oh, what's happening? When she was diagnosed that night, they knew it was 100%, right? But I'm trying to grasp onto whatever I can, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, are you sure? She's like, I'm 99.9% sure. I'm like, are you sure though? Like, of course she's sure. Mm-hmm. They end up doing a bunch of blood tests, et cetera. So the way that it works with leukemia is for women, for girls, it's a 2.5-year treatment plan. For boys, it's a 3-year treatment plan because statistically the leukemia comes back in the testicle. And so for 2.5 years, you go through this treatment plan. And it definitely is like, it's pretty aggressive during the phases, right?
And it's chemo.
Yeah.
So she's taking medicine that's going to like hurt her to the point where she's barely getting by to try and kill the cancer. Yeah. And it's just a nightmare for you.
Yeah. And you know, luckily, you know, there's different immunotherapies and different things that are coming out, which we try and stay up on. But yeah, she was given a lot of chemotherapy, a lot. And she was given a lot of steroids. And the steroids were the worst part, for sure.
How come?
Dude, it just made her a different girl, you know? Like, I truly feel at this moment in time, like where I'm sitting right now, I feel more blessed than ever before. I'm so blessed because our business got crippled by COVID, and now we're out. And Ava and our family is just thriving. They're just amazing. And during that time of steroids, it was just very difficult, you know, to have your kid tell you, like, speak to you in such a way that like just broke my heart, man, you know? And it was a lot. It was a lot to overcome, but you know, there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
So were they giving her steroids, or do they give people in the situation steroids because they're taking such damage from the chemo that they have to try and build them back up type thing? Yeah,
I think that's part of it, you know. And then all of a sudden they have something called moon face, where like their face looks like absurdly wide. Obviously they lose their hair. Which, by the way, you know, it's interesting. When Ava first lost her hair, it was more traumatic, I think, for us than it was for her, because she was 4 turning 5. So she was, in my opinion, like, and I wrote this in the book, I believed that if someone was going to be diagnosed with leukemia, I don't ever wish that on anybody, but for us, we were as well prepared as we could have been. We were financially in a good position, fitness was on point, and we had a family support system that was just unparalleled, unmatched. And you know, when it came to the age, it was a good age because Ava was able to understand a little bit what was going on, but not understand fully the gravity. But it reinforced how good humans are, man. When you would walk around with a kid that's bald, who people look at them like, oh, that kid has cancer, like they're sick. You saw a side of humanity that was pretty magical. I mean, the things that people did for us were very touching.
Now, when you're on this 2.5 year cycle, it's not the whole time, right? You're doing cycles, like you'll do 6 weeks of chemo where you're getting crushed, or is it the whole time?
It's basically the whole time.
No
So
kidding.
there's different flows. Like there's like induction phase and this phase and that phase, and there's different types of chemos. Like one was called the Red Devil, and you knew that when that was going to come up, it was going to be nasty. The
And
other
you do it multiple times, Red Devil?
Well, the Red Devil I think only happened once, but like vincristine, for example, is a very popular chemotherapy. That would happen.
Vincristine?
Yeah, that would happen many times. The reason why the reason why chemotherapy is the reason why kids get so sick. So when you look up the statistics of ALL leukemia, statistically we were in a pretty good spot. Meaning, like, if you look at it, the survival rate is pretty high. As long as you pay attention as a parent, as long as you're on point. You know, like I was advocating for my daughter every single day because that was in my control, right? What was in my control is advocating. But the reason why we would be in and out of the hospital so much is that when you look at her blood markers, if her ANC dropped below a certain amount, it meant that she was more susceptible to getting sick. And so as soon as her blood markers dropped below 500, you had to be in the hospital until they got out of that. Because especially if they trigger a fever, you had to go in immediately because your body was fighting something. And it might take you a week to get out, might take you a day, might take you a month. It just depended. So that's why I'm very grateful for our family because they stepped up big time and watched our son.
Yeah, no, there's an awesome section of the book where you talk about basically as soon as this happens, you call your team together and you just say, I'm going to take care of my daughter and you guys got it. And you call your dad and like, hey, I'm going to take care of my daughter. And he's like, well, we got this. And basically the support that you're talking about was coming from both your work relationships that you had and your family relationships. And you were able to really just like focus on taking care of Ava. That's a huge piece, and it's a beautiful part of the book for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think people need to work hard, right? They need to work hard on their relationships. They need to focus on them. They need to work hard at their work to build a hedge, to become so successful, so, important to the company that they want to help you in return. And obviously with your family, just holding strong relationships and having your fitness on point. You know, your fitness has to be there. Every day when we were in the hospital, I'd go to the parking garage. I'd bring my truck out there and I'd put a bunch of weights and I'd hit a hard workout. I had to stay within 6 minutes of the room. So if I was running, the furthest I was able to get, maybe 7 minutes. So the first I was able to get is a mile. I would tell myself, because when the doctors were doing their rounds, I had to get back in time to be able to talk to the doctor. But I would go out to the garage or at the parking garage. I'd come back with just energy, enthusiasm, and that's what workouts do. And if you're not training right now, you got to start training, man, because you never know when life's going to throw you a curveball. And the best thing you do is be as fit as possible and work on these other areas. And I was very grateful at the time. The team we had then and the team we have now, I'm blessed to have, because I just wrote an email and say, hey, man, I'm out. I don't know if it's going to be for a day, a week, a month, a year, but this is my only priority. That's it. And so I ended up deep diving into cancer research, leukemia research. I wanted to try and take everything that was in my control and try and focus on it.
Mm-hmm. How long were the chunks of time that Ava would spend in the hospital?
I mean, it varied from 2 days to a week to a month.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we spent birthdays, Valentine's. I mean, I remember one time my wife and I celebrated Valentine's Day in the hospital. Mm-hmm. It just varied, and then we ended up going back for some stuff. They thought she relapsed. I mean, it's just a lot. Yeah, mm-hmm. It just varied.
This is also the time when you started jiu-jitsu. Is that right? So
yeah, when I found out Ava was sick, I retired from the sport of CrossFit, because what I said was, like, you have your business, your family, and your fitness. For me, fitness took on a different lens. I was no longer trying to be the fittest on earth. I was trying to just use fitness as a way to clear my mind. And I found jiu-jitsu. I used to sublease some space to a jiu-jitsu school, and I loved it. It was like human chess. I would watch it and I'd be like, dude, this is badass. I love it. But I couldn't do it because I didn't want to get injured for CrossFit. I did a one private one time. And so when Ava got sick, I said, I need to find something to clear my mind. I need to find something to give me an hour where this is like months after she had been sick. And I found jiu-jitsu. And, you know, I created certain protocols around it where, you know, I still had access to my phone. I was still doing this. But long story short, I started off with privates. And then I ended up at a place called Heroes, which is in San Jose. And then from there, I just moved on. And I was like, I've been doing jiu-jitsu now for like 7 years, and I absolutely find it as a critical component of my life.
Were you surprised the first time you got choked out or submitted an arm lock? Were you surprised at all, or did you kind of accept that that's the way things were?
I accepted, but, you know, we were talking about this a little bit off air. I think that, especially coming from a CrossFit background, I didn't realize my own strength. I didn't realize my own ego. And I probably wasn't a great training partner. I probably wasn't. And my advice to my earlier self, or anybody who is in fitness and wants to try jiu-jitsu, is like, maybe start with some privates, start with some fundamentals, and just like walk in the door and say, my goal is to be a good training partner today. And that's my goal. Because what will happen is, if you're new and someone feels your strength, they're going to ramp it up. Then you're going to get scared and you're going to ramp it up. And then it just turns into this like very non-beneficial training session.
Yeah, things can escalate quickly.
Very quickly.
Especially in the white belt world, which is when you begin jiu-jitsu. You know, even when someone's a blue belt, they can still ramp it up for sure, but they're going to be at least a little bit more composed. But 2 white belts going crazy is, I think I usually say, like, the first year, your chances of getting hurt in the first year are 10 times greater 100%. Than in your probably 4th year. You know, your 2nd year, it probably goes down to like 50%. And then in the 3rd year, now you're in a pretty good spot. And like, I mean, once you've been training for, I don't know, what do you think, 7-8 years? Like,
yeah,
you shouldn't be getting hurt. You shouldn't be getting hurt. Like, look, can shit happen? Yep. You can slip and you can get twisted, or you do something that someone didn't expect. Like, you can definitely get hurt. It's a freaking contact sport. But the early days, the white belt warriors, and having someone like your freaking explosive ass freaking getting crazy, that's definitely a good time to get hurt. And so, to your point, if people know that, they're going to be, you're not being a good training partner. And just like anything else in life, you're part of a team, and you're going to be able to improve because the people that you work with, not working against them. So being a good training partner, I love the idea of putting that as the primary goal. I didn't know what you were going to say when you were saying that, like, hey, walk in the gym, and like, I thought you were going to say, hey, is to use technique or is to learn the technique. This is actually the best priority I've heard. The priority you go into the gym for the first time is be a good training partner. That should be your goal. And that's a really good place to start. And that means not trying to not tap out. That means not trying to rip people's arms off. That means not worrying about any of that stuff. Because, man, you get the escalation of white belt warriors, bro, you got problems.
Yeah, I think I summarized it like that for myself, because coming from a CrossFit background, I get a lot of attention from people who want to try jiu-jitsu. And I just try to remind them, like, dude, your goal, just be a good training partner. Because if you just say that, what does that mean? It means focus on the fundamentals, focus on technique, focus on trying to give and receive. And especially when it comes to training with other belt levels and maybe opposite sex, like, if you're really focused on being a good training partner, I think only good things will happen in the future, because it also allows you to train with everybody in the room and not have people not want to train with you because you're not a good training partner.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. It's to create a culture of one that we're all trying to rise each other up, and I'm not trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm. And there's like a counterpoint which people might throw out, which is like, well, if it doesn't work, you know, if I'm not, I want to give them a realistic training. So if I'm not going as freaking hard as I can, then that's not realistic training. Here's the deal. The people are learning jiu-jitsu. They're not in a street fight. And as you get better, you definitely escalate. I mean, if I'm trying to arm lock Echo's going to give me 100% resistance, so I can't arm lock him. And if I don't do it correctly, it's not going to work. That's what we want. But this is after years and years of training. This is after making sure that my technique is good and that his technique to escape is good.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely that's probably the biggest thing to watch out for.
Which means, though, that you guys are good training partners.
Oh, for sure.
So for example, like, if we're rolling, right? If I'm rolling at my current level today, like, it's much different than it was before. But if you and I are trying, or let's just say you two are trying to roll together, like, you are being a good training partner by putting on the pressure, and he's being a good training partner by not letting you.
Yep.
Because you know what I mean? Because if you want to compete in the future, people aren't just going to give up your arm. Yep. So I think as long as you create that as like the overall theme, that's something I've been reflecting on a lot, is like, how can I bring more value to you, and you in turn are going to bring more value to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you really shouldn't be hurting your training partners. And if your training partner doesn't tap, it's one thing to be like, well, Echo should have tapped. That's why he's hurt. It's like, no, actually that's wrong. If Echo's not tapping because he's feeling stubborn or he doesn't want to tap or his ego is in the way, I need to subordinate my ego and be like, all right, I'm not going to hurt my freaking training partner, and I'm going to let this go and we'll carry on.
Right.
And let's face it, we all know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean though? Like when you get caught, you're like,
we know. Yeah.
Hey, have you ever had one of those situations where you're rolling? I was overseas somewhere, and I dropped it in a gym. And I was having some good rolls, right? And I get this guy into a good spot, and he's a higher belt than me. And I get him in a good spot, and he's like, "Okay, let me tell you what to do from here."
Classic.
That's
and
a classic.
I'm like, dude, I'm right about to bring it on.
That's a classic meme in jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
That's a very common theme in jiu-jitsu. Is like you get there and you're about to choke them. They're like, you know what you want to do here is you want to make you want to put your elbow a little bit there. Yep, there you go. And then they tap and they go, good job. Yeah, I'm glad I could teach you there. Yeah. That's a very common thing.
But man, the lessons learned from jiu-jitsu, like if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know about jiu-jitsu because these guys talk about it all the time. But I'm telling you, as a guy who dedicated his life to being the fittest on earth for almost a decade, pivoting into jiu-jitsu has been incredible, because something for me is every time I train, when I'm thinking about like a class, when I coach classes, it's, can people get a good workout? Can people learn something new and have a great time? Like, and it's in this order. They need to have a great time, because if they're not having a great time, they're not going to come back. They need to go ahead and have a great workout, which is pretty straightforward. And they need to learn something, even something very basic. But when in jiu-jitsu, it unlocks the brain. Like earlier on in CrossFit did for me, like I strived for years to hit my 300-pound snatch or my whatever. And I would constantly be refining the techniques. But eventually, you're making 1% gains here and there, or even no gains. Like for me, I'm probably never going to hit a PR again on an Olympic lift. And that's okay. Because in jiu-jitsu, I could unlock my brain, learn something new almost every single day, learn new threads, new ways to get into different things. And so it's connecting me in three ways. I have a hell of a time doing it. I get to get in a good workout, which I also think you should be doing CrossFit and strength conditioning, which is we could talk about. And then I learn something new every time I'm on the mats.
Yeah. Well, I going to that piece, number one, yeah. I mean, Dean Lister will teach an arm lock.
He's so funny.
He taught me. He could teach me an arm lock this afternoon. An arm lock like from the mounted position, like and I'll learn something. And I'll be like, dude, why don't you show me that? He's like, I've showed you that 1,000 times, but like you're not ready to learn. When you said you should do strength and conditioning and jiu-jitsu, this is something I used to get asked a lot. Like almost with a little bit of disbelief. Like, but do you still work out even when or do you work out on the same days you do jiu-jitsu? I believe that's a little bit of the magic, honestly. I think that's a little bit of the magic of being able to limit the injuries. Because I think if you work out all the time, like I never stopped working out. I never stopped working out at all. I always worked out and did jiu-jitsu. Personally, I like to work out before I do jiu-jitsu. I think that's my preference. Some people might have different preferences. That's my preference. I feel like I'm a little bit more fatigued when I go to the gym. I'd rather be fatigued when I'm doing jiu-jitsu. I also feel like I'm sore, but I'm like, I've moved my body already. I've moved my body through space.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
as someone might say.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I feel like a little bit warmed up. I might be tired. I might have DOMs, right? There's nothing worse than DOMs. When you can't even getting up and down off the mat, you got DOMs. That's painful. But I'd rather be there than get done with a hard jiu-jitsu training and then go and try and work out. But you were saying that strength and conditioning and jiu-jitsu is a good combination.
Yeah, I mean, so, it's funny. I think it was the first time I met you. I finished rolling. I'm like, hey, dude, so Jocko, let me ask you a question. Do you train, do you do like CrossFit stuff, strength conditioning stuff, and jiu-jitsu on this? And you said to me, you're like, yes, but not the same intensity as you.
Yeah.
And I walked away. I was like, no, it's the same intensity as me. I'm like sitting there
calculating.
I'm like thinking to myself, like, okay, how am I going to reflect, And so the way I've kind of like taken what you said and is this idea of RPE. So,
well, just real quick, I meant that when I do jiu-jitsu, I'm not doing it at the same intensity as you. When you're doing jiu-jitsu, like even as a purple belt, you have more white belt in you than you have black belt in you at this time. So when you train, it's a much harder workout for you than it is for me. And look, and you've seen me train. You've seen me train 1,000 times. I mean, when I'm done training, I'm dripping in sweat.
Right.
I'm very tired. I don't know how many calories or whatever I would burn, but it's a hard training session. I am definitely tired. I can just about guarantee I'm not as tired as you would be after, a session, because I am going to be using more technique. I'm going to be in positions where I can relax more. I'm going to be in spots where I know how to avoid needing to put a lot of strength into a move. So yeah, I definitely trained jiu-jitsu, but I mean, at that time I only watched you, but then I trained with you in at camp in Maine, and I'm like, yeah, we get done. You're obviously in better shape and stronger and faster than I am, but you're also breathing harder at the end of a 5-minute round. Why? Because you're working harder, because I have better technique in jiu-jitsu. Just like if we did when you and I were like sprinting, you're stronger, faster than me. You're beating me, and I'm still breathing harder than you. That's the way it works. So yeah, just to clarify that, when you're the better you get at jiu-jitsu, and
that's why the strength conditioning is so important. But anyway, I'll let you finish your thought.
I was going to say this. With MMA fighters, when I was training a lot of MMA fighters, I was always encouraging them to train jiu-jitsu every single day. And some of them got it, some of them didn't. The guys that got it were the guys that realized that a training session in jiu-jitsu doesn't have to feel like you just did, a Fran pyramid, right? It should. In matter of fact, if you do it right, it actually kind of shouldn't feel like that. Are there days when you're getting ready for ADCC, and I used to train Dean for ADCC, he'd feel worse than a Fran ladder. He'd feel terrible, like we'd completely deplete all of his energy. That's and same with MMA fighters. But you should be able to do jiu-jitsu where it's almost no impact on your metabolic capacity 15 minutes later, where you're like, oh, if I still had to do something, like if I got done doing a Fran ladder, right? And then someone said, hey, now we want you to do whatever, we want your buddy carry Echo up this hill. Right. I'd be like, damn it. But if I got done rolling on a normal day, now look, if it's a Sunday open mat and all my psycho friends are there and it's like a bloodbath, cool. I might be a little bit tired. But on a normal jiu-jitsu day, when I got done training jiu-jitsu last night, if someone's like, hey, you got a buddy carry Echo up this hill, I'd be like, cool, it's going to suck, but it wouldn't suck because of jiu-jitsu at all. It would just suck because Echo's heavy and that's a big hill type thing. So you should be able to train jiu-jitsu in a way where it's not negatively impacting your strength and conditioning kind of at all. Now look, like I said, are there times if you're competing? Look, when I competed all the time in jiu-jitsu, it was like we trained hard where you're leaving tired. Yeah. You're working really, really hard. That's part of it too. But you should be able to supplement your life with jiu-jitsu at a level where it's not making you excessively fatigued for everything else that you're doing in your life.
Well, and I had to take that to heart, right? So what I did is I went home and I said to myself, how did I take what you said to me? Mm-hmm. And I didn't take that as like, Jocko doesn't train hard. I took it as maybe I need to regulate my intensity on the mats and in the gym better. So I thought about RPE, rate of perceived exertion. If I'm hitting a 10 every time I roll jiu-jitsu, and then I'm trying to hit a 10 every time I'm doing CrossFit, I'm just too fatigued. It's too much. I need to back that off. But you brought up a really good point. I think this is something I think we need to talk about more in jiu-jitsu. So I've been doing it for 7 years. I feel like at this point I've been exposed to a lot of the best guys in the world. Not all of them, but some of them. And when I look at them, they're so in shape, right? Like, I mean, you look at all the top guys, right? Andre, like this last fight between Andre and Gordon, right? Mm-hmm. You look at the two of them; they're just monsters, and they are doing a lot of strength conditioning, I think, outside of the mats. But I bring up this question of like, if you're really good in your gym and you're one of the best guys, how often, if ever, do you redline? And how often should you be redlining? And I think that's where off the mats comes into play. So meaning if you're like really technically sound like you, the better you get at jiu-jitsu, the worse it allows you to be at your strength conditioning because you're so technically advanced. Mm-hmm. And that's cool and that's great until you meet someone who has the same technical advantage. Then it goes down to your strength conditioning. Mm-hmm. So my recommendation for jiu-jitsu and CrossFit is to do both, right? So I do it almost every day, and then I add in jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. And the reason why I think that it's so important,
Rookie numbers.
yeah, and but it brings up this really valid point that like if I could take you off the mat and exceed your heart rates that you're getting on the mats, add in some strength work, add in some stamina work, now I could redline you on an air bike or hill sprints, and that is going to only increase your ability to perform when you meet someone on the mats like one day, right?
100%. I had a guy one time, I caught him a submission, tapped him, and he says, you never would have got that on me if you weren't so strong.
Oh, dude.
And I said, that's why I lift, mother. Because that's the truth, you know. Like, it's 100%. You want to be in good shape. The other thing is, you're gonna want to do workouts because they will work out parts of your body that you don't use regularly in jiu-jitsu. Like if you're doing gi jiu-jitsu, like your grip's going to be good, right? So you're going to get a good, you probably don't need any extra grip work. But how often do you get this particular like sweep where you got to put pressure with your right leg a little bit, and you're going to pull with your whatever muscle, and it's sort of more like a clean, right? Even though you're on the floor and you're grabbing a guy and you're pulling him, that's like a clean that you just did. Well, you don't do heavy cleans on the mat. You don't get to do that movement 28 times. So when you get to do it in the gym, you're like, boom, oh, I'm going to build up my strength. So when I do that, execute that movement on the mats, it's going to be good.
You know, I've been training some of the guys at Coyoteras for a while, and Mason Fowler actually has a fight coming up, depending on when this is released, with Gordon Ryan. That's a big, it's going to be a cool fight, right? It's in December. It's a UFC Fight Pass, Gordon Ryan and Mason Fowler. And Mason told me something last week. He's like, hey man, I'm just letting you know, since we started training there, it's probably been like 2 years. He's like, I haven't had to have the same major injuries I was worried about before.
So good.
Because you've been helping me strengthen all these areas. And I think there's like, it's counterintuitive, right? I've heard people say, oh, I tore my ACL, I never am going to squat again. It's like, well, what if life demands you have to squat? What if you want to sit on a toilet and get back up again? There's just this, it's so counterintuitive to say I injured, now I'm going to never use it again. Instead, let's spend time strengthening up the muscle groups to support that joint. Say you could be better prepared outside the gym. And ultimately, that's where my journey has led me to over all these years. Like, what can I do in the gym to help me perform on the mats and outside the gym?
Yeah. So everybody train jiu-jitsu and work out. That's the basic concept. Echo Charles, you support this protocol.
Yes, sir. I do.
You put more focus on. You're very good at resting too.
He's got bodybuilding.
I monitor the rest. Yes,
you definitely no. Like legitimately, I'll say like, hey, are you training tomorrow? And you'll be like, no, I already lifted or something like that. You say that to me.
Yeah.
And that's because you are focused on making sure you get to recover from your workouts.
Yes.
I mean, Echo's pretty jacked.
Have you when back in the day when you were competing?
Yeah.
Were you following the same protocol?
Okay, so not to get into a whole long thing. So there are many like little approaches, and you can focus on this, focus on that, or whatever. And if I want to do a comparison to you, it seems like it anyway. It seems like your approach to like working out, fitness, capability, all that stuff, it was like anywhere, anytime, I'm ready to go kind of a thing. I don't care if I'm level 10 ready, or level 9, level 8, but I will be ready. Mine was a little bit more towards the other side of the spectrum, where it's like, I want to be level 9 and 10 ready, and if I'm not, I gotta basically be in a situation to be level 9 and 10 ready to do whatever it is.
Is this even to train jiu-jitsu?
No, but it's all part of the whole training system. See what I'm saying? So okay, so you know how you'll be like, yeah, if I'm not feeling good, I'll still go train and get the best I can.
Okay, cool.
And I'm like, hey, if I'm not feeling good, let me rest, so when I go train, I can get the most out of a level 10 workout. You see what I'm saying? Rather than, a level 8 kind of workout, or level 7, 6 level workout.
Because you feel the same way as I do. Like, jiu-jitsu shouldn't impact where you're like, well, I did jiu-jitsu today. I'm not going to squat because I did jiu-jitsu, or I squatted, so now I can't do jiu-jitsu.
Right. So, and it's going to depend on the day that you ask me that or whatever. So it could be if I'm focusing on like the lifting part of it, or it'd be like, hey, I don't have that plan for the workout today. So it's a little bit mentally, since my approach is like, okay, this is my rest. I'm focusing on my rest kind of a thing. Even do I need the rest in that specific day? Is that going to throw off the whole thing? Probably not. But in a way, I guess you could look at it as I've committed to the rest part of it.
You seem strongly committed to rest sometimes.
It's part of the system, sir.
Yes. Hey, that's the best way. I've never heard anybody refer to it like, hey, I've made a commitment. I've committed to rest.
I say recovery, but yeah, whatever you gotta go. But that is a different approach, is what I'm saying. So like, and I've always been like this, and for better or worse, like where if I'm like, hey, I'm like really tired right now and I know I have to go level 10 in this workout, like I'll do this workout tomorrow because I can get level 10 tomorrow. Today I'm only going to get like a 6. It'll be kind of like a wasted workout because if I do the workout right now, tomorrow is another day given the workout I have today.
Yeah, but you and I talked about this too. Like, you shouldn't dread your workouts.
Yeah, and a lot has changed since we had that talk, to be honest with you. And
wait,
as you get
way?
older... Because we were talking at camp just about a bunch of stuff, and he was like, "Hey, your workout shouldn't stress you out," and my workouts kind of stress me out a little bit because of that reason too. Because it's like there's certain, I would say pretty much every workout I have to go like PR level attempts, you know. And I'm not saying 1 rep max necessarily, but if I'm doing like a set of 15, if I'm doing 5 sets of 15, that first set, like if I don't get my standard or a PR, it's like I've literally felt a loss that day. And to the point where it kind of does stress me out. Like if I'm like, shit, did I drink enough water before this workout? I better drink some more water, you know, like, and it does actually stress me out. It doesn't give me like anxiety level stress or nothing, but it's like, it is like an added like enemy in the room kind of a thing. And he was like, Jason was like, hey, they shouldn't stress you out. You should just go in there like benefiting essentially the workout for the sake of the workout. Like a workout benefits you regardless of the numbers you put up or didn't put up kind of a thing. And I was like, that's a good way to approach it. Although when you're younger, those things kind of, I think, mean more to you anyway. And then when you get older, you're more mature about it, and it's like, okay, yeah, this shouldn't stress me out. Like I'm a healthy person. That's really what's important, not how strong my shoulder press is, you know, kind of a thing. Yeah. So I mean, things change, but that's how I've always approached it. So if you're like, yeah, you can't just throw in an extra 10 sets. That's not part of this program right here because I'm trying to optimize this stuff. So you can't just throw in, oh yeah, you training right now? I was like, no, because I train here, and it's going to throw off the whole system. So
but even though I'm asking about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think mentally I just associated it all together.
I think you're kind of one of the, I think you have your plan and you don't like to deviate from your plan. I think that's basically what it boils down to.
That is it, and I basically explained like why that is, why I'm trying to search my brain, like why am I so committed to my plan? Because deviations from the plan can still make the plan remain effective, but for some reason, it's like I'm less comfortable deviating.
But you used to train a lot more jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You used to train 7 days a week.
Yeah, because that's like when I cared about like, you know.
Well, you don't care about jiu-jitsu anymore?
Not as much, no. Yeah. I mean, I care about jiu-jitsu in and of itself, but like the fact that I got like 2 days of training in 1 week versus 6 or 7, no, I don't care about that as much. No. Yeah. And even the fact like, I think when you get older, that's natural. You know, the fact that like, okay, I got tapped out by 3 people today versus like 0, you know, like, you care way less about that later on, I think, in my experience. Okay. But, you know, with certain individuals, it can vary, for sure.
Text me in the future. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, if that ever happens for you.
You know, the goals change, right? And I'm sure your goals have changed too. Like, and for you, it's like a workout should enhance your day. A workout should enhance your life and your day. And if it's not, then you got to reframe the way you look at it and understand the why behind it. Like, why am I doing this in the first place? If it's to make me a better husband, a better dad, to show up more, to be able to go run, jump, climb, like, what is my why? And is this workout in alignment with it? So for example, if your why is to be jacked, to look the part, to be able to go do all these different things in jiu-jitsu, whether you get 15 reps or 10 reps, it doesn't really matter. You're still going in there, you're clearing your mind, you're showing up better when you leave. And I think that that's what I reflect on, because I've had to evolve. You know, 10 years ago, it was setting PRs and that was my goal. And it was an extreme case. Now, earlier today, I was in the hotel. I got after my workout. Dude, I was sweating my butt off. I felt great. I left there fired up, charged up. I walked here. Dude, I'm feeling great. But it's just evolved over the years, but my why has changed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So once again, train jiu-jitsu and work out. That's confirmed, right?
There's this idea that this guy Tim, the engineer guy. Anyway, he said, he was talking about his dad, and his dad used to be heavy into wrestling and working out and stuff. And I forget if the dad said this or he said this because he watched his dad kind of do this, where similar to kind of what you're talking about, where like, once you get injured, sometimes you're like, well, I guess I'm not doing that anymore, And same thing with like those higher, like let's say a PR approach, where it's like you're trying to do get your best lifts every lift. So after a while, those best lifts, the numbers start to go down a little bit. So that can easily lead you to think, well, let me not necessarily strive for those because I'm older now, and you essentially let those like you slip essentially, like you actively
lower the standard,
lower your own standard. Yeah. Exactly right. Actively, where you allow it to happen, like consciously, so I think that was a big part of my stress too, where I'm like, shoot, I'm not getting these numbers for the reps I used to get. So yeah, it'd be easy for me to be like, no big deal, I'm getting older. Or it could be like, no, I'm going to keep fighting for this thing. But the more that would happen, and there's all kinds of different reasons, but the more that would happen where I wouldn't get the numbers, it would stress me out. Like I'm freaking slipping and I'm, so that would be part of the stress. But at the same time, it's like, there's way more to it than that, Well,
so it's going to naturally happen, right? Like as you get older, things are going to change. And so your perspective on it has changed. Like for example, when I finished competing in CrossFit, I'm like, dude, I am always going to be able to clean and jerk 315 pounds. Always. That was like my mindset. And now, like, I could barely clean 315 pounds. And then I'm going to, 5 years from now, I might barely be able to clean 225. But I have to keep reframing in my mind, like, what is, like, as long as I'm accomplishing my goals outside the gym, I'm good. Because otherwise you're chasing a ghost that's going to be, you're chasing something that's just going to stress you out for a lifetime. Like I'll never be able to, when I'm 50, I'm not going to be clean and jerking 315 pounds. So I put unrealistic goals on myself, and that's just going to set me up for failure.
Yeah. And that was really the value that I got from it, because let's say at the end of the day, it'll come as no surprise. It's going to be a balance, because you have to be honest with yourself where it's like, hey, am I backing off on these numbers because, I don't have to like put in that kind of work anymore? Or is it like, hey, let me embrace the things that I can do, still do my best, and accept like a certain level of honest acceptance that like, hey, this is the reality of it. And I'm not going to be a competitor level. I'm not a competitor anymore. But at the same time, I'm not going to be a slacker anymore, because sometimes it's like an excuse to slack, like, hey, I'm older, I got a family now, so I don't have to work out. You still can, you still totally can, but you don't, because you use it as an excuse. So I was trying to, it's like a weird balance between those two, And I think that you highlighted that you can still go hard and not have to be stressed about not getting the numbers, kind of a thing. And I was like, and that clicked with me.
When people get injured, they'll all say like, "Oh, what do you do? What do you do when you're injured?" And I have a real, which I think is a simple but good answer. Do what you can, right? So, you hurt this arm, cool. Do kettlebell snatches with the other arm. Do squats, like start working on those one arm pull-ups. Like there's a bunch of things you can do when you can't use one arm at all. Yeah. There's a bunch of things you can do when you can't use your knee. There's a bunch of things you could. So there's all the, like you hurt your back. I remember I had neck surgery, which I was like, dude, I'll be back in 3 days, right? Well, what I didn't know is that when they cut open your neck, the back of the neck, they're cutting through a bunch of muscle there. When they go through the front, there's not much muscle that they cut through, but I had one where they cut through the back of my neck. Well, your neck muscles are they're on all day long. Every position that you're in. There was like one position that I found laying down where I could put my head a certain spot where I could finally get those muscles to relax a little bit. And so, because it's keeping your head balanced. It's like constantly balancing your head. So your muscles are like firing. You don't even know it. They're firing all day long. Well, those were just in agony because they got cut open and sewed back together. But I remember, so I couldn't do anything. And I freaking got up and I walked down to my garage and I literally walked around in circles for like 8 minutes. And I was like, that's my workout. You know, like that's it. That's what I got done. And I was in agony from just my head trying to balance while I was walking. And that was like the day after I got surgery. And then, okay, do what you can. The other thing is, what I think you got to be careful of is, well, I used to be able to freaking clean 315 and that's my lifetime. That's the standard. And then one day you can't get it. And so you're like, you know what? I'm not doing cleans anymore. Yeah. That happened to me with overhead squats. So I hurt my arm, really bad. And oddly enough, I hurt my arm. My main training partner of my life, Dean Lister, who's never hurt me before, he was showing a move and he freaking hurt my arm. He felt terrible about it. I felt angry about it. But anyways, it was I had to go get a sling because I couldn't handle the weight of my own arm. So for months I couldn't straighten my arm out and I couldn't lock out.
Which I tear your what? Do you know what happened to it? Or?
No, because I didn't go to a doctor. I just freaking dealt with it for months. But I'm sure it was some kind of a injury.
Yeah,
sounds safe to say.
Yeah, it was an injury, and I heard pops, and I couldn't straighten my arm.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was whatever. And this is the time that he said to me, "I didn't know your elbows weren't flexible," and I was like, "Bro, elbows are bones. They're not flexible." But so I couldn't lock out. So I could not do anything even close. I couldn't do a PVC pipe overhead. So, so I was sitting there doing like one-handed kettlebell goblet squats, whatever that might be. So I was doing that for months. And when I finally could straighten my arm out, I was like, I tried to like do the PVC pipe and I couldn't really get in position because now my mobility had been impacted. And I thought to myself, this is how it starts. Mm-hmm. This is the beginning of the decay. And if you accept it, it will be a downhill like rush of destruction. And so I just was like, okay, we're starting this, the PVC pipe it is. And I started and coming back. And that's what you have to do. You can't let the movements go away. You can't lose the movements, even if they're assisted and light and they hurt your ego. You gotta do the movements. And the cool thing is you can build them back. You will build them back. It's gonna take persistence, gonna take hard work, but you can build them back. Don't submit to the loss of movements. Keep doing the movements, whatever they are. Learn new movements. There's all that research coming out now that when you learn new things, it's really good for your brain.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of just doing this, I have a problem with that. I'm very a habitual person, right?
Yeah.
So I'll do the same workouts. They'll do the same things for months, and I'll be like, "Oh, you can't keep doing this. You got to do something else." So I think it's important to remember that. Don't always do what you can. And what's that saying you have about zero? Like, don't do zero.
Never get to zero. It's like never zero mentality. Like one thing I just wanted to add, what you're saying is like focusing on what you can do and not what you can't do is like the immediate mindset shift when you have an injury. Like imagine like with your bicep, what you can't do is XYZ. What you can do is a ton of other stuff. But the idea is like you can never let your momentum get to zero because an object as it's moving, right? If it just keeps moving, even a little bit, man, even just a walk, it helps you earn your confidence so you can keep moving. But as soon as you stop for a day, a week, a month, it's very hard to get back into that momentum. But if you just don't let it stop and you just get in a little walk or you do your 8 minutes around the garage or whatever it is, that's the key. So it's the never zero mentality that I think is important with training.
Yeah. I have another thing that I wrote in Discipline and Freedom Field Manuals. This is a pretty good rule. When you start feeling tired and you need a day off, don't take it today, take it tomorrow. Like, and listen, I'm not saying don't listen to your body if you're exhausted, but a lot of times, and even if you say, look, I'm really tired today, but I'll take a day off tomorrow if I'm still tired, but today I'm just going to go there and do something. Maybe instead of doing my freaking max squat, I'm going to go there and do some lighter weights and do a, higher rep workout. So I'm making sure I not get hurt, but I'm still going to go in there and do it. Yep. And then if I still feel tired tomorrow, cool. I'll take the day off. I'll eat a steak and take the day off. That's cool. But because it's real easy to, feel tired. And we all know this. All three of us all know this 100%. you were tired, you didn't feel like working out, you considered not working out, you went and did the workout, you felt freaking fine. And you might have even gotten a freaking sick workout. Maybe even PR'd.
That happens more often than that.
Yes. You know, the area I think about is like, if I'm not feeling it, you have to listen to your body, but after your warm up. So that's the way I do it. So like, let's just say it's like, dude, I'm not feeling it. Like I've been traveling or whatever. I'm like, all right, go into the garage, go to the gym, get on the bike. You're on the bike for 10 minutes. If you still don't feel like doing something, chances are you probably shouldn't go too crazy. Just do a little something and leave. But 99.9% of the time, after you're on the bike for 10 minutes, your body starts getting a little bit warmed up, you'll be ready.
Mobility Protocol 17 Alpha. Like sometimes I'll get in there and I'm like, well, I'm going to go do something. And that's what I do. I go in there, I start warming up and I'm like, yo, this is not smart. And it's like, okay, cool. You're going to spend, a half an hour doing some mobility, doing some kind of something to keep moving and not let it get to zero, not let your momentum get to zero. That's good stuff.
Yeah. That field manual protocol.
It's a good one.
It pays dividends, 100%.
And the hardest part about jiu-jitsu, the hardest part about lifting, the hardest part about writing, the hardest part about executing a project is walking to the gym, walking onto the mat, opening the door to the garage. Like it's always getting there and just freaking turn off your brain and go start executing.
Yeah, it's like the cure because really the problem a lot of the time, and this is part of your whole point, where the problem most of the time isn't your physical. Like, listen to your body. That's a physical thing. Like, hey, your body's not working right now. You're training too much, right? But especially when you got other stuff in life going on, bro, that mental momentum is a big thing, So if you're focusing on this and stressing about this and then frick, now I got to go freaking do squats right now. Like, man, I'm not. And meanwhile, so you go in the gym, you haven't warmed up nothing, no adrenaline, no blood flow, whatever. Your mind is still on the freaking book or whatever you guys do. And so your body is kind of like, hey, we're not really ready for this right now. But your mind is the thing focusing on the wrong thing. So and that's a good protocol too. Warm up. I use the first set. I'm going to do one good set. And if my body is like, hey, we're not doing this, then it's a little bit more of an indicator. But once you get that first set in, it's
what do you do then? Like, let's say you get the feeling like you do your first set and now you're like, yo, I'm definitely not feeling this. Do you just do a lesser workout? Or you just abandon and try again tomorrow?
I've done that before, yes.
I get pissed if I have to do that. I get pissed if I have to abandon. I do my work. Because, the warm-up takes, 20 minutes before you start your work sets? And now I'm going to abandon this? I got to be honest with you. I'm too, what's this? I have the sunk cost fallacy at that point. I'm like, I'm just going to do this shit anyways.
I can't do that. I just want to say, like, for me, it's like as soon as I walk in the gym or the garage, like literally immediately I'm on the bike. And I don't do anything else. Like immediately, I might be like on my phone, whatever, but I'm moving immediately because I just can't. Even if I sit in there for 2 minutes, I'm like, dude. What's even worse than the workout though is the pre-plunge, dude, the cold plunge.
Yeah.
Before on that one, like I'll walk out of my house and I wish like I have my I wish I had a camera show me. Like I'll walk out of my house. I'll just like I'm in my mind. It's like I'm getting in this damn thing. I'll start taking off my clothes, like, my boxer, my my board shorts, whatever. I'll just walk right in and just get in and get the hell out. But if I sit there for even a second, it starts creeping in on me.
I don't plunge before I work out.
No.
Yeah. But you do?
No. I'm just saying the mental state before a plunge versus the mental state before a workout. He's comparing the two.
I can't. Like, I was inspired this one time. I was at the beach, and this guy comes to the beach, starts walking in Santa Cruz. I watch him. He starts walking. He does not skip a beat. He takes off his clothes, just like gets to his boxers, whatever, walks in the ocean, turns around, and walks back. I'm like, dude, that's the mentality. Because as soon as you stop,
you don't want to stop. I have that. Like every once in a while, I'll go, because when you're talking about like a workout stressing you out, for me, like when it's like kind of squat season and everything, and I'm just like some of those squat workouts, I will warm up for a really, really excessively long time, like an idiot. Just like, I don't want to start this first set. I know what it's going to boil down to. And I'll be like stretching and getting out the mobility ball and freaking getting out the this.
Just trying to get primed.
Yeah. And it's such a lie. And what I realize though is, I always tell myself, like, okay, just start your watch. Because once you start your watch, it's going to be over in this amount of time. And that's all there is to it. Nothing can stop. You're going to have to do it anyways. So just freaking shut up and press go and let's do this.
So have you done the 20 rep back squat program?
Yeah. Dude. I have a modified one of that I did where I would do, this is probably some kind of an ethical violation in the world, but I would do that. I would do 3 sets with 20 minutes of rest. So I would do 20 rep squat, lay on the floor for 20 minutes, get up, do it again, lay on the floor for 20 minutes, get up, do it again. Oh. And that was just, it was, there's times when I would be doing that where I would legitimately like want to, I'm serious, I would want to cry. Yeah. And I would be saying to myself, like, I don't really care if I'm strong. I don't really like, it doesn't mean anything. This is meaningless. Like, what am I trying to prove? Like, this doesn't matter. You don't have to do, like, I would be having those kind of conversations. That's the only thing with everything I've done in my life, that's the only time where I've been like, this, you probably don't need to do this right now. Like, there's no reason for this. Like, I've done a lot of stuff where it's like death, I could die. Where it's like, oh, I could die. And I've never had a thought like, you don't need to do this. No, I've never even thought that way. But
20 reps.
But the 20 rep squats.
20, dude. Yeah. For anybody listening though, if you are going to get into the 20 rep back squat program, dude, once you get up to heavier loads, I mean, those reps ranges could take you up to like 3 or 4 minutes with that bar on your back. Yeah. Just be aware of it. It's a lot of load for a long time. You have to make sure you stay engaged the whole time.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult, and especially like rep. I would always feel like when I got to 13, I could see the end.
Yes.
Like, but
it's like 9 to 14. You're like, oh my gosh.
It's those 9 to 13 or something like that. Cause you're not sure if this is worth like what you're doing. Like, you're wondering.
You start questioning life.
Like, you're saying to yourself, 10 is pretty good. Yeah. Like, I could just get to 10 and we could kind of call it. Maybe I can break this up into 2. All solid kinds workout. Of little mental arithmetic that you're doing to freaking try and get out from underneath that thing. But that is, super squats.
Yeah.
Super squats, bro. Check out Super Squats. That's the book that will give you the guide on the 20 rep squat workout and the eating protocol.
Oh, the gallon of milk a day?
Yeah.
Dude. I knew some people who did that. The longest I've heard is a week. To drink a gallon of milk a day and do the 20 rep back squat program. Mm-hmm. I think it's twice a week. Mm-hmm. Longest I heard is a week with the gallon of milk a day. Mm-hmm. Whole milk. That's a lot of milk.
That person's getting large. Yeah. You're getting it. The thing though, that 20 rep squat, like what it releases into your body, what your body does to try and cope with this scenario is
the time under tension. And when you think about training protocols, like your body needs to be stimulated in such a way, like the effective dose is one that stimulates your body in such a way that says, wow, I want to create an adaptation. That was very difficult. I need to get fitter. And that's why CrossFit, I think, has done so well, is that it highlights intensity. Now, you can go overboard, but when you highlight intensity, your body says, oh my gosh, I want to create adaptation. The same thing happens with time under tension and 20 rep back squat. Your body's just such under fatigue and tension that it then creates a strong adaptation from it. So that's why it's beautiful.
And what's the percentage? Like, there's some percentage when you're doing a squat, like the amount of muscles that are engaged in your body is like the largest percentage of muscles that you can get engaged in your. I guess if you did overhead squats, right, that might be more, or maybe like a clean and jerk. I mean, obviously, but it's a different kind of weight.
It's more dynamic.
But overhead squat, you don't get the tension though. So that because of the balance. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to be really, really, really good at it. But back squat is like the most stable versus.
Well, the overhead squat, if you do it well, the problem with the overhead squats is if your position is not appropriate, you could not load it up enough to create a super strong stimulus. Because most
that's what
people,
I'm saying.
Their range, like
and just physically, like your shoulders in that position is not as stable as the bar being on your back.
Yeah, but still, I mean, dude, you look at some Ollie lifters. Like my best overhead squat was, I think, like right below 400 pounds. And that's still a lot. Because
it's a lot.
But let's not forget, you still have to get it over your head. So that was the hardest part. You have to back rack, split jerk it.
Right.
And now you're sitting there like,
And again, good and impressive, but comparatively speaking, you can't say like, you can get more tension, generally speaking, on an overhead than a regular back squat.
The idea is to think about like moving a load a long distance and moving it pretty quickly is kind of how you produce a lot of power, and that's where you can see some effective workouts.
Oh, for sure. So getting back on track here a little bit. 2016, obviously you're going through your whole situation with your daughter. 2017, you kind of touched on this, and it's in the book as well, like where now 2017, you renamed the gym to NC Fit because now you've got other things that you've got going on, right? So essentially in 2017, you weren't just a CrossFit gym anymore. You had this kind of corporate training and corporate wellness that you're doing. You have other services inside your gyms that are not specifically CrossFit. So you got a lot of stuff and growth. I just wanted to ask you about, as you grew, what you said the biggest you got to is 140 people or so. What was the leadership? What leadership challenges did you face when you were doing this?
Yeah, I mean, many. I think that, so when I graduated from college, yes, I got a degree in business management, but I learned a lot from the people that were like, took me underneath their wing at the gym. But when I graduated, in 2008, I started the company. And from that day, basically forward, I was the boss. I was running the gyms. I was running the business. And I wish I had spent more time developing my leadership skills. I think I learned a lot as I went. I think that I had aspirational aspects of me and I had grit and hard work. But I think that there was many things I could have done better as a leader to empower others, to be more decisive. I think that there was just quite a few leadership journeys that I think I could have, if I had other people impact me, like for example, I talked about going to the FTX. If I had gone to the FTX before all of this, that would have been helpful, because you're not just leading locally, we're now leading internationally with different cultures, with different languages. And it added a lot of, we expanded. I think we did what we had to do, but we expanded very quickly. Mm-hmm. And with that came a lot of, I think we could have done a better job creating who are we, where are we going, what are we doing, and a shared mission and vision. We didn't do that well enough. And when we rebranded from NorCal CrossFit NC Fit, my biggest takeaway was that, to me, we were still a CrossFit affiliate. It was all the same. I was thinking, well, guys, like, we're just branding to be in control of our own destiny, and to be more, aligned with what we're offering in the gym. But the staff didn't see it that way. And I didn't do a good job explaining who we are and where we're going. I just said, we're no longer this, we're this. I just thought they just assumed we're the same. But what I should have done better as a leader is sat them down, which I ended up doing like 6 months later, and said, hey, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. These are our core values. This is this. And even since that day, that was like 2017, man, today, more than ever, we now have a shared mission of where we're going, which I don't think we did a good job of back then. Right. I took it for granted having the team on the same page. I took it for granted that they were just passionate about CrossFit and helping people, but they weren't necessarily, I could have done a better job of them being passionate about our business and where we were going.
Mm-hmm. So going into 2018, and this is actually when this book came out in 2018. 19, yeah. But you had started writing it in 2015 or 2016 is when you started writing it, and you kind of got redirected, obviously, attention in other places with your daughter, with your business. The book ended up coming out in 2018, and the book, obviously it's called As Many Reps as Possible, but it's a book about this philosophy, right? And you take this philosophy of as many reps as possible, which we've touched on a little bit, and you make that a philosophy not just for a type of workout, but for how you're sort of going through life. And that's what the book is. The book is a bunch of, and I've only read a tiny fraction of it today, so get the book so you can get the details. But the book is a bunch of situations that you were in that you utilized this mentality, which is basically a type of workout mentality, but you applied it to other things that you had to do in life, business decisions, getting through these terrible situations with your family and getting things back on track. So you end up applying this, and that's what the book is about. So I wanted to just go through this real quick.
Sure.
The actual AMRAP mentality and what it means. You say in the book here, the AMRAP mentality is a high-performance mindset that embodies 5 major components. It is the tool I use day in and day out to accomplish goals both large and small. This mindset is a major contributing factor to the success I've earned in competition and in business. It is also one of the most important approaches my wife and I took when figuring out how to manage Ava's battle with leukemia. I hope you find it as meaningful and powerful in your own life. Here's a short recap of each facet of the AMRAP mentality. Now, again, you introduced these in the beginning, and then you give examples. But this is the recap, and I just want for people to understand these things and how it can help them. So the first one is know your why. Your why is the foundation of the AMRAP mentality. It is the deeper meaning and purpose that drives you. Your why guides your actions and keeps you on course. More than just fuel, a strong why demands intimately knowing and understanding who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Your why may change over time, but one thing remains constant. Without a strong why, you can get lost, distracted, or end up chasing the wrong things. So important to understand deeply why you are doing what you're doing. And again, this doesn't just apply to as many reps as possible, which is what the workout is.
Yeah.
The workout is as many reps as possible in a certain amount of time. You got, whatever the exercise or exercises are, you got this much time, you can do as many as you possibly can. And in order to make that happen in life, you got to know why you're doing it. Next one, focus on what you can control. And you've mentioned this a few times today. In life, business, and competition, things can generally be divided into two categories: what's in your control and what's not in your control. When you boil it down, there are only a few things that are in our control. The good news is these few things are some of the most powerful: your mindset, actions, reactions, preparation, hard work, perseverance, among other things. When you take your valuable energy and move it toward focusing on what's out of your control, things can go badly and fast. This is a weak mindset. You're at the mercy of other people. When it comes down to it, you will be more successful and happier by focusing on what you can control. Yeah, this is a big one. This is a big one.
Probably the biggest one.
Yeah, it definitely is. And one thing that I would say I word a little bit different, I think about it a little bit differently, is you say when you boil it down, there are only a few things that are in your control. I always look at it like there's only a few things that are really, truly, completely out of your control. Like most things you can have an impact over. Like you can set yourself up and you can control a lot more than people think. One of the examples I give on this is like you're supposed to do a mission and you're going to take helicopters to do the mission. And bad weather comes in, so the helicopters can't fly, so you can't do the mission. I have no control over the weather, right? So how can that be my fault? But if you actually look at it like, okay, well, what can I do? We're planning to take helicopters on this operation. Hey, in case there's bad weather, let's have vehicles on standby. Oh, okay. Now all of a sudden bad weather rolls in and we can still take the vehicles and we can still go do the operation. There's all kinds of situations where if you abandon control, you're giving up something that you could almost certainly impact. And then you get to a point, there's some things that are legitimately you have no control over, like your daughter getting leukemia. You just have no control over that. The only thing you control is how you respond to it. And, those are the things that you talk about. And when you focus on the wrong things, when you focus on the things you can't control, it's going to drive you crazy.
Yeah, and something that someone can do that's a tangible takeaway from this podcast is obviously what Jocko was talking about. The way I look at it, and I first did this with competition, is I would take something that's stressing me out. Let's just say it's the CrossFit Games. And I'd say I'd take two circles and I'd put on the left in control, put on the right out of my control. And I'd say, list all the things that are in your control. Did I double knot my shoes? How do I eat? How did I warm up? How did I, what music am I listening to? What, all those things, right? Tons. Take things that are out of control. What your competitors are doing, what the events are going to be, the temperature outside, whatever. And then choose like every day. So I would actually have this like on my refrigerator, choose to focus on the circle on the left. And you could take that for a number of situations in your life, but that was helpful for me in the beginning. Since then, I don't necessarily use that diagram as much, but it was really helpful for me to actually list it out. And it's like, oh, wow, there's a big list that's in my control. Let me pay attention there.
Yeah. And you really do see people get driven crazy by things that are out of their control. And it's terrible. And you cannot let that happen. Yeah. But even like the example you just gave, hey, I've got this. I'm doing a competition. The time that you freaking passed out from competition.
Sure.
You could have been like, well, I just had a reaction. That's not on me. Instead, you're like, no, what can I do to change that? How can I adjust my mentality? How can I make sure this doesn't happen again? Like those are, instead of just throwing your hands up like, well, you know, I don't know. I guess that's just the way it is. I went too hard and that's just the way it goes and I just passed out. Like, no, you looked at that and analyzed it and said, well, how can I make sure that doesn't happen again? As opposed to just saying, that's just the way I am, which would have been hey, this isn't in my control. Yeah, it is.
Right.
Just got to learn how to control it.
100%.
Next one, work hard.
Yeah.
Hard, smart work is the currency of the AMREP mentality. If you are not ready to put in work, or if you're looking for shortcuts, this mindset is not for you. Roll up your sleeves, ditch excuses, start grinding. There's no better way to accomplish your goals than to work really hard. It sounds simple, but a lot of time we need to stop talking and start doing. So let's go. Yep.
Yeah. Check.
Yep. Check. Shift gears, and this is something that might take a little bit more explanation, and you cover it really well in the book, but shifting gears in the AMRAP mentality really means being invested and active in the present. When you're at work, be at work. When you're at home with family, be with your family. When you're working out, work out. Don't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. This is the connection between your body and mind. Be all into your current activity, and when it's time to shift gears to the next thing, be all in there too. When you're thinking about one thing but doing another, you will not achieve optimal results.
Yeah. So this one really hits home for me. So the way I like to look at the AMRAP mentality is I like to look at it like riding a bike. You need to be present and focused when you ride a bike. If you're not, you're going to tip over. You need to work hard, you need to pedal. And then depending on the terrain, you might need to switch gears based on the hill. When I think about my day, I think about it in terms of switching gears. So for example, I got up pretty early. I went and worked out. When I'm there, I'm AMRAPing, I'm present, I'm focused. I'm not thinking about this, I'm thinking about that. Now I'm here. I'm only here with you guys. You don't see me on not that I would, but I'm not distracted on my phone. I'm not thinking about business. I'm just here with you guys. After we're done, I'll switch gears again to something else. And so the way I like to segment my day is, in the morning, I'll train with my kids. Then I'll switch gears when they go to school to business. Then I'll switch gears to train. Then I'll switch gears. And the 1 foot in, 1 foot out mentality was causing a lot of, I wrote this in the book, but like my wife and I, we were walking down the street one day. I'll never forget the look she gave me. And she's strolling our daughter. And at the time, like I was competing professionally, we were open internationally. I just had a lot on my mind. And I was thinking about walking on my hands at the CrossFit Games. And she asked me a question. I just remember looking at her and saying like, I have no idea what you just said. And I remember the look on her face was like, not one of upset, but just one of like, she was just disappointed, right? And I said to myself, like, I got to get my stuff together. Like, if I'm going to be walking with my wife and daughter, I need to be present and focused here, because what was happening is I was taking calls with Asia and hitting assault bike intervals. Like, I was not reaching my potential in any area because I wasn't optimizing that specific area. And that's what switching gears is.
Yeah. It's prioritize and execute. What we call prioritize. Yep. You got to focus on what you're doing right now, and you got to focus your resources on that. If you're trying to do 3-4 things at the same time, you're going to fail at all of them, and it's going to be a disaster. The last one is reevaluate.
Yeah.
Moments of reevaluation in the AMRAP mentality are those times when you need to take a step back to re-examine your why and your focus. These are major milestones, and they usually occur around big changes. Having the ability to reevaluate is essential and shows a tremendous amount of self-awareness. Over time, your goals and your why may change, and that's okay. It's important to stay connected to the world around you and not stay locked into something that no longer is right for you. As the saying goes, timing is everything. It's no different in the AMRAP mentality. Your why when you're 20 may be very different than your why at 30. Take time to honor your why by re-examining it over time. So taking that step back and actually looking at what's going on, if you don't do that, you're going to have problems.
Yeah. The way I like to think about that is like, I like to do micro check-ins with myself. So like, let's just say I'm in the sauna or I'm on a bike ride, and I'll say, hey, how am I doing as a husband, a father, as a business owner, as an athlete, whatever. Micro, like daily. And then every now and then you have those big check-ins, like the ones I was talking about with my wife about the CrossFit Games. Those are big moments where you say, hey, do I need to reevaluate the whole thing? An example for, maybe you lose your job, maybe you get married, maybe you have a kid. That would require you to kind of reevaluate everything. But these micro check-ins help me so I don't wake up a year from now and say, damn, I was a bad dad or whatever, name the thing, right? I could have been better here. This one's more of a macro.
Yeah. And I looked at this too, is also almost as if you're debriefing, right? Debrief is a huge, way to improve what you're doing. And if you don't debrief after you do an operation, if you don't debrief after you do a project, if you're not debriefing after you get done with a fight, you're not learning anything. And so for me, this was also like looking at what you're doing and saying, all right, let's do a quick debrief on my performance as a dad, as a businessman, on that project, on that workout, whatever the case may be. So you can say, oh, here's some adjustments I need to make to get better. And just to close out the book, and again, the book is, there's all so much good information. And actually one of the things you got in here is you've got a bunch of little, they're like mental drills to go through. And it's almost like, I guess for lack of a better word, it's like meditations on like, hey, think about this for the next 8 minutes, write down what you discover. You got a bunch of these little drills, basically mental drills to do, and some physical drills to do as well.
For sure.
So, and then on top of that, you have a bunch of anecdotes that describe how well this AMRAP mentality has worked for you in a bunch of variety of different situations. So get the book. I'm going to close it out with this. This mindset is not a gimmick. It's not a cheap trick, hack, or shortcut. I'm not telling you that the AMRAP mentality will magically transform your life while you lay back and sip frozen margaritas. You will need to work. And for this thing to really fire on all cylinders, you will need to be the hardest worker in the room. But you should want it that way. When you learn to enjoy the labor, the success is even sweeter because you've earned it. So there you go. That's what this thing gets into. Now, you got tested with the AMRAP mentality, as you already mentioned real quickly, when COVID hit in 2020.
Yeah.
So what happened to the businesses when the COVID hit?
Oh man, that was big. You know, I think that adversity, micro dose of adversity in the gym, I think can really help us outside the gym. And that's why I expose my children to all kinds of sports, because I think they learn how to overcome these little things. And then in life, when something big happens, they're better prepared. But for us, who'd have thought that COVID would happen? And at the time, we were either operating or running, I'd say close to 30 brick and mortar locations. We had many, many gyms utilizing our resources and tools. And it was a lot. And when you think about brick and mortar, when you think about the businesses hit hardest through COVID, I imagine brick and mortar gyms probably had to be one of them, right?
Yeah, well, it was definitely one of the biggest ones. Because
you couldn't do food to go. You couldn't do any of that stuff. And then even, especially in California, different areas had their own rules. From a leadership perspective, from a core perspective, we chose to abide by all city and county guidelines. Now, was that the right decision? I don't know. I don't know if it was or wasn't, but that's what we chose. Mm-hmm. And we could have gone the other way, right? We could have not gone that direction, but we chose to. So we had some locations shut down for over a year and big rents. And so our business has consolidated tremendously. So through that, obviously our brick and mortar condensed down. We did what we had to do to retain our team, to take care of our team. We grew digitally, but we consolidated brick and mortar. Luckily, we still had the corporate wellness that was pumping globally, but we switched to digital for a lot of that. And here we are now, 2023, and just the business has evolved, right? But that was a very, very difficult time for us and many gym owners in our space.
Yeah. So what did this switch to digitally, what does that look like? What was this, the NC Fit app?
Yeah, so the NC Fit app was, so NC Fit, again, born in NorCal, we service gym owners through our app, which gives them session plans, programming, all the stuff that we use in our gyms, it gives it to them. And it's a really valuable tool, because what I recognized as we grew globally was that we wanted to have a similar experience from one gym to another. And we weren't giving them that. We were just giving them the workout. But instead we gave them the workout, the warm up, scaling, timeline, you name it, in a daily video. So that's what gyms were using. So that business stayed pretty strong. But then we rolled out an end user app to help obviously generate some revenue, but also help our members who couldn't come into the gym. We gave them an app that they could use when they're at home. So that's kind of how we pivoted there and got through that. And now I'm very fortunate that although we've consolidated, our brick and mortars are doing really well today.
And then there was also like craziness going on in the CrossFit world.
Yeah. And a lot of that, I frankly, I wish none of that happened at all.
Right.
We had a lot of gyms that looked at us for guidance during that time, and they were part of the NC Fit collective. And there was some stuff going on in CrossFit, and a lot of gyms were looking at us like, hey, what are we going to do? What is the next step? And my heart has always been in the right place. Like I have tried from day one, anybody who knows me, to try and support gym owners and coaches. I want to see them make money, provide for their families, and do what they love for a living. And, you know, during that time, I just try to do that same thing, try to provide whatever I could. And we rolled out a license program during that time, which since then we've kind of decided isn't the vision for where we want to go as a business. We learned a lot that experience, but during COVID, it was a trying time for CrossFit in general, but now I think they're at a good spot.
Yeah, no, I mean, CrossFit's doing really well right now. They brought in Donfall. We had Donfall on the podcast, former Marine, great dude. And they're really focused. They're focused on like really helping out the affiliates. Like it used to be very, very laissez-faire, meaning like you just open a gym and if you've got a CrossFit level 1 cert, you can have a gym. It could be freaking literally in a tent,
right?
Or it could be in a 20,000 square foot, you know, metroplex. Is that a word?
Metroplex.
It could be anything in between. And you could have coaches that failed gym class, and you could have coaches that were Olympic lifters,
right?
And everything in between. But now it seems like, well, that's one of the things that they're focusing on now is like really helping out, putting investments into the affiliates so that the affiliates are more supported. That's what they're looking to do.
A good way to think about CrossFit is it's a license model, meaning you pay a fee to utilize the mark. And in 2008, I was very, very blessed to be able to utilize this mark and this methodology and be a part of the sport. That changed my life forever. And Greg Glassman was the founder of a methodology that, in my opinion, has been incredibly impactful across a variety of things, not only across many entrepreneurs and businesses through the CrossFit space, but also, obviously, I think gymnastics has gotten a little boost. I think Olympic lifting has gotten a huge boost. I think he's
powerlifting.
I think he's one of the biggest reasons
gotten a huge boost.
Why you go into a conventional gym now and that space looks different. Or you go into a hotel gym and you'll see kettlebells. A lot of that is due to his innovation from, 15, 20 years ago. And with the license model, it was always Greg's idea that, the cream will rise to the top and I'm just going to provide this methodology and you do you. And I think for a long time that worked really well. It gave guys like me the opportunity to build a business with paying a very nominal license fee, and the barrier to entry was very low. But with the barrier to entry being really low, it also allows for people to get in who are just kind of hobby mindset. And so that's where you see this discrepancy over the years, right? You have some people who are treating it like a hobby, some people look at it as a business. And now I think with Don and others, they're trying to create a streamlined approach to CrossFit, because I think there's a stigma about CrossFit. When people hear it, whatever that stigma is, you might have an impression. And I would assure you that if you actually went into a gym, if you went into an affiliate that really cared, and I'd say basically all of them do, and you actually spent time there, you'd probably have an amazing experience. And I think that more people should look at that opportunity. It's like jiu-jitsu. You go into jiu-jitsu, you have one experience, and maybe it wasn't the perfect experience. I think jiu-jitsu could change your life. I think CrossFit could change your life too. You just need to go find the right gym and go spend some time there.
Yeah, and I think just like in jiu-jitsu, leave your ego at the door, because if you bring your ego in, and I think that's what, one of the bad raps for CrossFit, in the past decade, right, has been like, oh, guys are trying to do stuff that they're not capable. Guys and men and women are trying to do stuff that they shouldn't be doing, that they don't have the proper technique for, and they're pushing themselves really hard, and they're trying to execute things when they're fatigued that they shouldn't be trying to execute. They shouldn't even try to execute them when they're fresh, much less trying to execute them when they're fatigued. And when people let their ego come in, both as a coach and as a trainer, as an athlete, if you're my coach and you have a big ego and I'm an athlete and maybe I don't even have an ego, but you're telling me you can get this because your ego wants me to perform well, when you should be saying, hey, Jocko, your form's starting to fail.
Yeah.
You need to back off. Or if my ego's saying, hey, you know what? Don't worry, coach, I can do more. That's when you get hurt. When you get hurt. So I think they've now got a great focus of making sure that doesn't happen. Also opening it up for like normal people, because I think when you see a kind of stereotypical CrossFit person, everyone pictures someone that's just jacked and looks like they're an incredible athlete, looks like they're a freaking college track athlete or something, when the reality is most CrossFit gyms are normal people that are out there trying to get in better shape. And what a great way to get in better shape. What a great way to meet new people. What a great way to get to be part of a community. It's all good. And I think some of those stigmas, I think CrossFit earned some of the stigmas that they got. And now they're in the process of getting rid of those stigmas by changing and evolving to where the ego's much less and more focused on, hey, we got this is for normal people.
I mean, what I would say is that CrossFit is, in my opinion, the most effective training program ever. I mean, at least for me, it is building people in our gyms, including myself, who are capable outside the gym. And I think that they could lift, they could pull, but you need to enter it and just detach from your ego. Just go in there and maybe try a few different affiliates. Find the one that works for you, just like finding a jiu-jitsu gym. But I think once you try it, if you're interested in higher intensity training, CrossFit's the way to go. And you will find coaches who just deeply care. And I think that's what makes it special. So I do think, though, that as an overall ecosystem, we are getting better. There was a time where maybe it wasn't as good. But now I think you see coaches maturing. I think you see athletes maturing. I think you see the leadership maturing. And it's at a really good spot right now. And I'm excited for the future of it.
Yeah. What else you got going on?
Well, so
you're wearing the Train Hard t-shirt. What's Train Hard all about?
So Train Hard is something that we've been talking about forever. It's kind of a culmination of all of my training, right? It's for 20 years trying to meet with the best coaches in the world to be better at powerlifting, Olympic lifting, all these different things. And then my exposure through different law enforcement groups we work with, or through jiu-jitsu, and saying, like, what program am I fired up about right now? Like, what do I love? And CrossFit with the higher complexity movements is phenomenal, and we do it at our gyms. But for me, Train Hard is a new program that is designed for people who want to act the part, look the part, and never hit zero. And what that means to me is act the part means that you could protect and provide. And so as a dad, this is where I'm at on my journey, right? I'm 38 years old. I've been training a long time. I used to want to be the fittest on earth. Now it's like, I want to be able to jump, climb, and push, do whatever I need to do to protect myself and my family, including jiu-jitsu and other things, right? That's important to me. My son fell into a bonfire last year, and I jumped up and was able to push him out. That is a skill that I was able to develop because of the gym. But I also want to be able to provide. And I think this is not just talking about like hunting. I'm not referring to it only that way. I mean, provide experiences. I want to be fit enough for my family that if my kid asks me to do anything, I'm game. You want to go jump in the ocean? You want to go climb something? You want to go play baseball? Let's go. I want to provide experiences, but I also want to provide financially. And I believe that if someone comes in, is using our programs or is training hard, they're going to show up differently when they're at work. And that is going to help them provide more for their family. They're going to show up with more energy, more self-confidence. They're going to look the part. And I believe that's going to help them in the long term to provide financially as well. So that's what we're about now at Train Hard. And we're launching in January. It's an online program, 3 programs. One's mainly strength conditioning, one is more of a functional style bodybuilding, and one is your Never Zero program. And it's designed for people who align with kind of where I'm at on my journey today.
And that launches in January.
Yeah. Okay. Along with what we're going to be working with your team for the.
Yeah, we're doing something a little something called the Def Reset.
Yeah.
You heard of this shit, Echo?
I heard of that. Yeah.
You're doing it.
Freedom Reset, and what it is, we did it last year, and it's like. It's a reset button, right?
Yep.
Sometimes you got to hit Control-Alt-Delete. You know this stuff because you're a computer nerd.
Yes, sir.
Right, Echo Charles?
Yes, you're correct.
So sometimes everything's getting all jammed up, we like to say.
Yes,
and so
true.
It's not functioning the way it should. You hit Control-Alt-Delete, do a little reset.
Yes.
So that's what this is. And we did it last year. It was kind of like, I didn't know what to expect of what the response would be. But man, you get to see people just hit that reset button and really make an awesome transition and get on the path. And you hear me talk about the path in life, the path of discipline. I can tell you this. If you're on the path in life, your life is better. this has just been proven to me over and over and over and over and over again. If you're on the path of discipline in life, your life is going to be better, 100%. And so that's what the Def Reset is. And what we're doing is, it's pretty cool. You are participating, and you've got a bunch of workouts ready that are fully scalable. And what's the minimum gear needed for the workout program?
Yeah, I mean, a set of dumbbells, if you have access to a jump rope and a cardio piece of equipment, would be ideal. If not, you could identify adjustments. But we are going to add a load in there with the dumbbells. If you don't have it, you can utilize a backpack or something else. But it would be nice if you had a set of dumbbells, a jump rope, and access to a form of cardio. And we're going to be putting out 5 workouts a week. They're all going to be EMOM based. So for people who are interested in doing this, I love EMOMs. I think EMOMs are the best way to train. Not the only way to train, but in my opinion, I love them because it's you against the clock. And you can set quantifiable goals and then race against it. It also helps this never zero mentality where, guys, all you got to do is show up, hit the workout. It's going to be 30 minutes or less every day. And that could be a thing that you do along with whatever else you want to do for that day. But that's the idea.
How come you like EMOM better than AMRAP for a workout for this particular occasion?
I mean, that's a great question. There are going to be AMRAPs within EMOMs. So let me give you an example. It would be minute 1 and 2, steady state cardio at a moderate effort. Minute 3 and 4, AMRAP. So as many reps as you can of 3 dumbbell deadlifts, 3 lunges, and 3 push-ups. You do that as many times as you can in the 2 minutes. You then rest a minute. So I love AMRAPs, as many reps as you can within a time frame. But I think the reason why EMOMs work so well is that it gives some like calculated rest in there, and it allows you to gamify it a little bit more because you have a minute by minute case where you could identify and just take a deep breath and say, how am I doing on this workout? Okay, let's get back at it.
Do you ever do those EMOMs where I mean, I know you do, but one minute, the first minute you do 1 rep, the second minute you do 2 reps. What do you think of those things?
I love them. Like death, they call them death by, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 1, 2, 3. I mean, the funny thing about those is like, so an example would be like, I don't know, 1 clean and jerk at 135 the first minute. You do it, you feel like, all right, man, like I'm feeling good, right? You go 2, you're like, dude, this is easy. 3, 4, 5. All of a sudden you get to like, let's just say 7. You're like, oh, yeah. Okay. And it just escalates quickly. So yeah, I do those. But here's the thing about EMOMs, which is why it's my favorite. Let's just say you want to learn a new skill. Let's just say it's the muscle up. And you said, I want to do one muscle up every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. You do your muscle up, you come down. You have plenty of rest, but it gives you an opportunity to reflect and say, how did I do? Did I utilize my hip? Did I drive out of the receiving position? Did I hit good positions? And then you could change it on the next one. So that this way you don't finish an AMRAP for 10 minutes and then look back on your workout and say, wow, I wish I had done this different. So that's one of the reasons why I like EMOMs is that there is small calculated breaks that could give you a second to correct something that's going on or inspire you to keep those same numbers. One of the workouts, for example, in the Def Reset is going to be, max push-ups in 50 seconds or a minute, max sit-ups and max squats, and then a minute rest. And you'll do that for 20 minutes. Well, if in the beginning, your first week, if let's just say you get, I did this yesterday, I think I got 30 and 35 or something like that. At the end of the 4 weeks, you can go back and try and test that and see if you can improve that. But it gives you a quantifiable number to fight for.
Yeah, that's going to be good. So we got that. So you're going to be participating in the Def Reset, giving those workouts and making videos and talking about various protocols for working out. That's going to be cool. Echelon Front's participating as well. So we're doing like leadership things and making leadership kind of challenges and stuff like that, and some educational videos and bringing people to some of our online training for that. And then I'm going to be doing talking about discipline as a broad thing and talking about nutrition and that level as well. So that's going to be a good time. Yeah. It's going to be a good time for the Def Reset. We're putting out a warning order. This is another thing that I learned from last year. You know, I'm probably one of the most guilty people of this, of like, I don't do New Year's resolutions because like I'm just doing it right now. Start today. Don't like I've done that my whole life. I've been saying that. Like, dude, my New Year's resolution, what? Nothing changed. There's nothing different today, tomorrow, whatever. But I'm telling you, I saw such a great impact last year. So, and also I thought about this. When you're doing a mission, do you just like randomly start the mission because you just thought of it. No, you actually prepare. So we're doing like a warning order where we're going to put out the word. This is what it is. This is what you need to be prepared for. So like everyone that's listening to this today that's going to do it, you just heard it, jump rope and set of dumbbells. You can get a set of dumbbells at a yard sale for $1.50.
Yep.
Like you might have to bargain with the kid and maybe give him $2. Sure. But I mean, you're talking like a 20 pound, 30 pound, 40 pound, maybe probably even 30. I'm thinking
it depends on what obviously your fitness level, right? But like, the highest you would want is like a set of 50s. That's the highest.
Yeah. And when you say a set of 50s and I start thinking about doing like thrusters with 50 pound dumbbells.
Dude. Yeah.
EMOMs, like I'm thinking 30s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cause that's so probably most people, if you have a set of 30s, 25s, 30s, you're probably going to be good to go. So there's a little bit of the warning order right now. Get yourself a jump rope. Maybe start practicing jump rope a little bit, you know.
Or find and identify another cardio, right? So if you want to run. If you want to get a bike, get a bike. But we want to have some type of cardio implement if you have access to it. If not, you're just running outside.
Okay, so running outside is an option.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's another? Is there any exercise that you consider a cardio exercise that you could supplement?
I think running is gonna be your best. I mean, if you can't jump rope, you could do plate jumps. You could just jump in place. You could also do up downs, which is kind of gonna be. It's not gonna tax your chest as much, but you can get your cardiovascular response. But I think the idea would be probably some type of running or biking is kind of like the goal or intent, even like a ski or something like that.
Yep. When I was training Dean Lister back in the day, we used to train at a place called City Boxing, and they had above the mat, there was pipes and there was lights, and they were at different heights. And so the light was a little bit taller. Like you had to set your jump. But basically, those were the two kind of cardio implements I used with him. One of the main cardio implements that I used with him. Touch the pipe, and he would just have to sit there and just touch. It's like you're jumping, 6 inches, or maybe it was even like, once you put your hand up, it was probably like 4-inch jump. But you do that for a minute, jump. And then sometimes it was touch the light. And the light was like a higher jump that you had to like explode for. One was just like a pop, bop, bop, bop. But you combine those two things together, that can be good. So what you're saying, like maybe you just get a little, like maybe jumping up on a curb, jump up on a curb, do that for your cardio if you can't run. But so there's your warning order for Def Reset. It's going to start January 1st, man. It's going to be one of those gigs. I know you could start today. If you really cared, you start today. Well, guess what? Plan today. Get a jump rope. Start learning how to jump rope. Jump rope, wear shoes, especially if you're beginning.
Yeah.
Like I work out barefoot, but if I'm going to be jumping rope, I'm getting the sneaks on, boy.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be cracking them up.
No.
You don't want to be cracking. No. What's up?
Can't remember the other day, actually a few weeks ago, when we were doing a video, and I come in with regular shoes on, by the way, and he's teasing my shoes. He's like, "Well, my man over here with a Foot Locker shoes." They're like regular shoes,
like Vans or like
regular Adidas shoes, regular for working out. And then it started to like provide some perspective. I don't know why I flashed back to that.
Yeah,
but it was weird how you were teasing me about regular shoes. They weren't even like crazy shoes. Black and white. Yep. Yeah. Exactly right. And you're like, "Oh, my man." It didn't make sense, but now it makes sense. A little bit more. That's what I was laughing at.
Yeah, there you go. With the white Vans. They weren't white. They weren't even white Vans.
They were black Adidas shoes with white trim. That's it.
Normal shoes.
There
you were rolling in there. So that's cool. And we'll have like a web page. We're going to host a bunch of videos on that web page. Again, this is just like, how can we hook people up? When I see the impact it had last year, it's going to be awesome. And there's like little challenges. One of the challenges is, and I think this is pretty awesome, burpees.
In 10 minutes, right?
Every day. It's either you do 100 burpees or as many burpees as you can in 10 minutes. That's a great little mechanism for life. It's such a good mechanism for life. Actually, you have one of the things in your book is max burpees in 6 minutes. This is a similar thing, but it's one of those things where if you can't find 10 minutes in your day, bro, you need to reassess everything in your whole world.
100%.
Because if you can't get 10 minutes to do some burpees, and it's a good number, like that's a good pace. And if you can beat it, cool. So go as hard as you can. If you get it done in 7 minutes, man, that's great. If you do 100 burpees in 6 minutes and 48 seconds, that's awesome. If you can only get 32 burpees in 10 minutes, cool. By the end of Def Reset, you're guaranteed to be doing a lot better. That's one of the things, that's one of the like additional little challenges. And again, burpees are no joke.
No.
You can have a devastating workout with burpees in 3 minutes.
Yeah,
like
it's because you're moving
yourself.
your whole body,
Yeah.
right? I mean, one of my go-tos is 15 burpees every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. It's like, that's like my jam. It's my go-to if I'm traveling, if I'm doing anything. It's just like, it just resets me, puts me in a great spot, and it just, you're drenched at the end.
You're drenched.
You know?
You ever do burpee pull-ups?
Yeah.
That's another good
or
one.
burpees to a target is also another example. So like back what you were talking about with training Dean, instead of just doing jumps, which are still great, you do a burpee, but you hit a target. For some reason, it's so much harder. Like because you're like having to extend or whatever. But I mean, the thing about it is like...
Yeah, well, that's because by the time I get to burpee number 62, my vertical jump is 1 millimeter.
Yeah. It's just, training doesn't have to be that complicated. I think that people complicate it. And the reality is you have to move every day. You have to get after it, and you have to identify what your why is for training. And for me, my why has evolved over the years, and this is what I'm expressing now. Like, I'm competing in jiu-jitsu. I'm going to compete in the tactical games. Those things are kind of like pillars that I'm looking for, but on a daily basis, I just want to be able to show up for the family and just be that guy. It's super important to me.
Yeah. So that's Def Reset. We'll be doing that January 1st. So the warning order will be coming out here shortly. Check out, you have a podcast too.
Yeah, the Jason Khalipa podcast. My co-host and I, Gabe, we just riff about being a dad, where we're at in our journey, and it's just evolved over the years. It used to be called Business of Fitness for years, and it was all about talking about what I've learned running gyms. And now it's the Jason Khalipa podcast, which allows me to talk about anything that I want to talk about.
Check. And then, one thing I wanted to mention is you are still involved. Like you said, your daughter, thank God, is recovered and she's cancer free right now. But you're still in the fight and you're helping other people out. You got two things that you support. Well, I guess you support through Ava's Kitchen, avaskitchen.org. You support something called NEGU.org.
That's right.
Never, ever give up.
Which is actually local to the Southern California area. The founders, they're incredible humans, and we've been supporting them for many years. So my wife does an annual fundraiser called Ava's Kitchen. Every year, Chef Michael Mina and a bunch of other chefs that are very popular, they come and host a live auction where they cook in front of you. We've raised millions of dollars for kids fighting cancer, and it's been one of the most impactful things I've ever done in my life, and I know for my wife too, where you could give. When we were in the hospital those months, we just saw a lot of stuff, right? And we want to do our part to try and impact families and provide them experiences. So we fundraise not for the cure, but for the care. And not that the cure is bad, but where we fund right now through NEGU is for the care. So sending people to Disneyland, giving breakaway adventures. We host events all the time, things like that. So avaskitchen.org, you can check that out. The next event will be in March 2024, and we'd love to see you there.
So awesome that you guys are still helping out. Very cool to see. What else? Does that get us up to speed?
I think that gets us up to speed, man. I think if people want to go check out, what we have going on with Train Hard, the best place to go is th.fit, trainhard.fit, but it's th.fit on there. We will have the book. We'll also have, obviously, access to our newsletter. We've been investing a lot on our weekly newsletter. It's just an opportunity for me to talk to, just people, primarily men, but also women as well, and just share things that are firing me up, right? Lessons I've learned over my life. And as I evolve, the newsletter evolves. And so if you want to join the newsletter, we'd love to have you on there.
Check. You also have jasonkhalipa.com.
Yeah, you can go there, but I think th.fit is great.
th.fit is the main place. And then you're on Instagram.
Yeah, Jason Khalipa on Instagram. Would
love
to
connect. You're on Facebook. You have your own Twitter. You have your own YouTube. I looked at your Twitter. Yeah. Which is at Jason Khalipa. Your last post was in 2020, so
I got to get on that.
You haven't been on Twitter much, but you're on the gram.
Yeah, the Instagram I think is the best place because it's a way that I could actually engage with people, message with people, share content that's important to me, and then obviously newsletter is a deeper level, and so is the podcast.
So awesome. Echo.
Yeah.
You got any questions?
Yeah. So let's
First
thing.
Here we go. What do you got?
Rewind a little bit back to football days.
Okay. I gave you the opportunity on football.
Well, kind of, but yeah. Okay. So you played guard, you said.
Yeah.
Right? But then you mentioned briefly pulling guard.
Oh yeah.
So they had you come in for pulling guard, or was it like, yeah, you just pull a lot?
No, so in our offense, I think it was the West Coast offense.
Wait, you know what pulling guard is?
No. Well, I know what it is. It's called when you pull guard. Like
not in
jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah,
No, it's different.
Okay,
There's a if you're a guard, that's your position, and you pull. That means you essentially go off when the play starts. You go off the line and go to the outside as an outside blocker. You pull whether one side or the other. It's so
Jocko, it's the best. Man.
But it does require, like, if you're a pulling guard, like that's kind of you're a specialty kind of guard. That means you're more athletic than. Let's say that you're.
So
quick.
it's like a little bit of a humble brag when he said he's pulled guard.
No.
He's a little bit of a humble brag.
Now that you mention it,
My favorite thing we did was pull guard because, to your point, you'd be on the line, right? And it'd be like, all right, so the play is whatever. And you'd have your running back go around the outside and you would pull and get in front of them. But man, sometimes there's just opportunities just to light people up because they don't see you coming.
And then I expected
and you're just boom. After the game, you'd watch like tape and you'd be like, wow. I mean, obviously, sometimes it didn't work out as well, but
what was your 40 when you were 260?
I think I got down to a
16 or whatever.
I want to say, I mean, who knows if the we were using like the finger timers. Yeah. I want to say I got down to a 4.9. So I got below a 5. And, I think, like I said, if I had applied myself differently, maybe my journey would have been different in football. I think I had a lot of potential. It was my own fault. Just didn't. But, my journey was also different. Yeah. From there, I found CrossFit and all these things, and it impacted my life tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were more athletic than your typical guard, you would say?
I would just say the offense. I would just say the offense ran a lot of pulling stuff, and I happened to be the guard.
Okay,
but it was just hella fun.
That was the question. Yeah. Okay. So, but were you a good 260 or kind of like sloppy 260? Like what up?
I'd say I was a good 260, but could have been a great 260 if I had worked harder.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right on. And then back to the pancake mix thing. What is that still like? What up? Like what? Dude, where are we at on that?
I feel like we
batter
need
blaster.
Batter blaster. Yes.
You know what? We should Google that after this show, and we should look at what they say. But I don't think it's a thing anymore.
That's too bad because, like, when you think about it, especially with the advent of protein pancakes and like all this stuff, right? And pancakes, let's face it, bro, those are delicious most of the time, So if you combine like a protein batter blaster pancake pack or something like this, bro, I'm telling you, bro, I'm down. I'm a fan.
Maybe we should start.
Jason's ready to invest. Bro.
Hey, how about that? We should create our own pancake batter.
It could be something. You guys could have that.
It could be something. Even like. I mean, I don't know. I'm not up to date on the pancake market really, but anything simple like because we still make pancakes. In the morning, whatever. We put milk in the pancakes. By the way,
hell yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as good of an experience that is, I'm just saying general marketplace kind of status is like, hey, if it's super fast and convenient, like in a bottle, pancake mix in a bottle or a blaster or a XYZ container, something convenient you can just use and put away.
Next Jocko fuel product,
protein pancakes.
How's that milk train treating you?
I like milk. So I like the Jocko fuel products. I like your guys's. Well, we talked about this. Like I do men's club workouts. Like on a weekly basis, we just go do hard stuff together. And I'll have 20, 40 guys show up and just go do hard stuff. And it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I love it. So I think that more men need to have that shared experience with each other, especially right now. Anyways, I'll roll out the Yeti cooler and I'll have the milk sitting there, and it's legit. I like that product. And then obviously I take some of your other obviously products, but the milk after workout is great. Joint Warfare is my favorite probably.
Yeah, that one's a huge subscription thing. People subscribe, which is to me that's an indicator of how well or how much people like something is they subscribe to it.
Yeah.
So Joint Warfare is like our biggest subscription thing because people get on it. They don't ever want to get off of it. I was saying before we started recording, because I had a protocol shift because I'll have a go on the way to train jiu-jitsu. When I got done, I used to just go straight to milk, but now I'm having to hydrate when I get done. And then I get home and have a milk. And that's like a trifecta of glory right there. Because I sweat a lot, and I get done training. I sweat. I probably sweat out 5 pounds. When I train jiu-jitsu, I probably sweat out 5 pounds at least.
Yeah.
And so I need to rehydrate, and the hydration just so good. And it just nails it. Get home, feel freaking GTG.
If you have a workout and you don't sweat, now you say you sweat a lot. So maybe for the average person, maybe doesn't sweat as much as Jocko. If you don't sweat, did you still get in? Do you still feel like you got in a good workout?
Oh, yeah. There's certain workouts where I'm not going to sweat as much. Like if I'm just like deadlifting someday, then there's probably, I might not sweat at all. I might be, because I'm just doing like, triples or something like that, and I'm taking long rests.
Yeah, and the weather and all that.
Plus the weather. If it's cold, I might not sweat. But I do break a sweat pretty easily. Even if I'm just doing something like a heavy lift day or something like that, I'll still probably, at least at a minimum, break a sweat. And then in the freaking summertime, it just gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just like a disaster of sweat. It's just gross,
Why do you ask that?
Just because for me, it's like it's this weird mental thing that I feel like if I don't sweat, I didn't work out, and I'm not. It's just a me thing. Like you could still get a great workout and obviously we're in California, so the weather is pretty normal. If you're in the middle of
if you're in Minnesota
during the winter,
you're not sweating for 6 months.
Yeah. So, but I think for me, it's like if once I start sweating, that's when I feel like my body's getting primed and ready. When I look at a warm up, it should be doing two things: increasing core body temperature and taking my body through a full range of motion. That's what I need to be. That's what I'm thinking about. Am I priming my engine for when I'm ready to perform?
Are you doing the same warm up every day?
Well, when I was competing, it would be the same. So
how long would it take?
That'd be like a 15-minute warm up. What I would be trying to do, like I even at sometimes would bring certain machines like a GHD to warm up areas because I had a specific protocol that mentally and physically would put me in a state. Because what you want to try and do when you're competing is you want to try and replicate things so your body starts saying to itself, okay, I'm getting primed and ready. So if I always had the same protocol, it'd be like nutrition. People eat a certain way, and then like three days before an event, they change it because they want to eat clean or do whatever. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Just stick to the plan. If you want to change it months in advance so your body can get adjusted to it. Same thing goes for warm-ups. I would have the same warm-up every day. 10 hip extensions, 10 GHD sit-ups, row, repeat, 3 rounds, move on. And it would just
move on to what?
I would just move on to like more skill specific for that day. Maybe it's going to be, but it was always the row and the GHD was like my go-to.
Row like as in concept 2 rower?
Yeah, like a 500 meter row, GHD sit-ups to basically open up my hips and get my quads firing, and then rotate over to engage my posterior chain and do hip extensions. So I'm testing my midline, I'm opening up. I would do that, and I would just repeat that for like 3 to 5 rounds. And then once I was ready, then I moved on to more specific for that day. Maybe it's opening my lat on a front rack position. Maybe it was, who knows. But when I did that, it mentally put me in a state where I was ready to crush.
Are you doing more mobility now?
Not really. I think that I think that deep tissue work and rolling is one of the most underutilized tools ever. I think quad smashing with a kettlebell and smashing in general is highly underutilized, and everybody should be doing it.
What is smashing?
So you take a kettlebell and you just put it right on your quad, and you just
rest it there.
Just
like
sit down on the floor
around. Yeah.
and just put it right at the dimple, right above your knee, and just breathe and let it get deeper. Then move it around and basically start to break things up. Right, the way that it was described to me is if you look at your skin, you look at your muscle, and you look at your fascia that's on top of that muscle. You want your fascia to smoothly go over as if you're ironing it out with a foam roller, and you could do that with the foam roller, kettlebell, barbell. So I do that, but I really use movement as a way to increase my range of motion. So for example, overhead squatting with just a light bar, just to kind of sit down at the bottom, make sure my hips and ankles are still there. I want to make sure that I'm still doing those type of things.
Check. Echo Charles.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
That was the thing about the sweating, because I was literally just thinking about that when you're, because you say sweat every day. It's one of your protocols, right? Sweat every day. And then, and I did a workout, and usually I start sweating a little bit, and then I'll do this like conditioning thing on, as far as typically speaking. I'll do a conditioning thing at the end. And after the conditioning part, that's when the sweat just drenched in sweat. But the other day, because it's getting colder, I did the whole same protocol, and I'm like, wait, I'm not even sweating that much. And I'm thinking like, it literally doesn't feel like I worked out that hard. But I did the exact same thing as I always do. But I was like, oh no, because it's cold right now.
Cold.
So to answer as far as your question, do you feel like you work out? It is a feeling, huh? It's like a feeling. I feel like I did, even though you literally same output as you always do, but you don't feel.
I mean, even like for example, earlier today I'm at a hotel gym and I'm getting after it, and it was pretty hot in the hotel gym. And so I started sweating sooner than I would if I was in my garage or at a gym. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting a good one right now, but I know I'm not. Like, it's all the same stuff. It's just a psychological thing. You just got to be like, hey man, just chill, dude. You're fine.
Did you ever use a heart rate monitor?
I have in the past. I think there is value to them for sure. One of the things I think is really interesting about heart rate monitors, and Tim Kennedy uses his a lot for rolling jiu-jitsu, is how do I take an athlete on the mats with the heart rate monitor, take them off the mats and replicate, if not enhance, that heart rate doing other stuff. That's something I've been thinking about lately.
What did he find? What does he find when he uses it? Is he finding like, is he working really hard? Is he finding out that that he can rest more, or he should be resting more, or he should be putting out more? Like, what's the research?
I got to ask him what his data is showing him at this point, but I know that he wears the heart rate monitor like regularly, and he's trying to get in specific zones. I've never really like trained heart rate wise. I think about more as a breathing cadence, especially for like long distance running. So when I was really running with a track coach regularly, we would utilize time and breath as like indicators, like what is your cadence, what's your breath rate, and how are you performing? Those were things I was thinking about, because I wouldn't be able to have a heart rate monitor or whatever necessarily at all the events in the games. Nowadays, people are a little bit more technologically advanced and they start using it, but 5 years ago wasn't the case.
What's your favorite imam? Like number, just bait your jam imam.
Dude, well, I mean, I think the 15 burpees every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. There's also one called Death Row that's pretty gnarly. It's 20 cal row and 15 burpees the next minute for 20 minutes.
Okay.
And so that's
so
tough.
So how does that work? It's alternating. You do the row, and then on the next minute,
15 burpees.
Phase burpees. So it's like an imam alternating.
Yeah, but I mean, on that one, the goal is nice deep breaths, get your heart rate under control, and you're going like 50 seconds at each one. And so if you try and go too fast, you know, the thing about imams, the thing about workouts is you want to think about it almost like you're breathing like you're swimming. So when you're swimming, you find your breathing cadence. It's very important. As soon as you get out of your cadence, you could freak out really quickly. Same thing goes with workouts. You got to find the cadence, and you need your brain to feel like it's going to get oxygen. If you like in jiu-jitsu, if you breathe and you stop breathing, your brain freaks out. But if you find a nice cadence, it's going to help you keep your heart rate more lower. So that imam is a good example of that.
Because that's different than like a minute in between sets. So because like
it's a hell of a lot.
Yeah, because
it's basically nonstop for 20 minutes.
I was going to say, because he says it's like swimming, it's like drowning. because even what you were saying earlier, you know, the first, like if you're doing 5 reps of something, the first time you're like, oh, this is so easy. By, you know, you fast forward 7 minutes, it's taking you that whole time, and by the time you get done, there's like 4 seconds left, and you just want to. You ever do that one, Kelsu?
Yeah.
That to me is a savage workout. So it's 5 on the minute, 5 burpees, max thrusters with 135, and you got to go until you get to 100 thrusters.
Wait, so you go 5 burpees and then the thrusters?
No, so check it out. The watch starts. Beep. You're going to do 5 burpees, and then you're going to do as many thrusters as you can in the remaining, 45 seconds. Yeah. And this is a destructive.
Which 10 would be like legit.
Workout. Yeah.
Like if you get 10, 135 is heavy thusher.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. And it takes like a half an hour to do this workout. Because for me, I'll get like 4 in the beginning. And then I'm getting like 3, and sometimes you get like a single.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm a loser.
So wait, after the first minute, you just start again?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So basically the thing about it is, I mean, even if I'm saying if you're pumping, but let's just say you do 5 burpees, that takes you about 15 seconds. Let's just say 20 seconds at the most, right? And then from there, you have another 40 seconds to get in, 5 to 7 thrusters,
Bro.
and then you restart again.
I'm over here to tell you I ain't getting 5 to 7. I'm not getting 5 to 7 thrusters.
Or whatever it is. Yeah. It depends if you got your knee sleeves on and weight belt on. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
Don't depend on nothing. You get down to minute like 9 and you're like, bro, I'm doing. I remember I've done it where I've been getting like singles.
Yeah.
You're just freaking exhausted.
Yeah.
You're like, having a breakdown.
That's crazy how like a workout, just that small shift in. So go back to your 15 burpees every minute on the minute.
Yeah.
That's different than do 15 burpees. Okay. So we'll do this. So let's say on average, give or take, you do 15 burpees. How many seconds do you have left?
15 burpees should take you about 45 to 50 seconds if you're doing it at the cadence that I'm referring to.
Okay.
That should be like a up, down. And you're trying to keep your heart rate under control, because otherwise, if you just do 15 burpees as fast as you can, it's going to take you 30 seconds.
Okay, so perfect. So how's this small shift? This part is interesting to me. So on average, you got 10-15 seconds rest between burpees if you're doing it on the cadence that you're talking about. That's a different workout than you do 15 burpees, rest for 15 seconds, 10 sets.
Totally different.
It's a different workout
because you could take a minute to do those 15
those little things.
That's why the clock.
Crazy,
that's why for the Def Reset, it's so important that we're incorporating EMOMs. EMOMs are so underutilized by the general population. They're incredibly important because it's now you against the clock.
Yeah.
It's not you.
Even when you're working, you're against the clock.
Dude,
not
think
just
about
the
it.
rest.
Let's just say the first time you do it. If you do this with me right now, I'd be like, hey, Echo, let's do 10 burpees every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. I'll do it with you. And I'll talk to you about breathing cadence. By the time you get to minute 7, you're going to be exhausted. Mm-hmm. But you got to fight because that clock's going to keep going.
Yeah. At a certain point, you might not have rest anymore. This was a basis of a lot of workouts I used to do with my kids.
Oh, yeah.
When my kids, the 5 burpees, max pull-ups. 5 burpees, max push-ups. 5 burpees, max lunges. I would do that with my kids when they were little. I think it mentally scarred me.
That makes sense to me completely.
Yeah, I was not the best, dad at this point. But it's a great thing. That Kelsu of 5 burpees and then whatever for the rest of the minute is freaking savage.
But think about what you did with your kids. Think about the gift you gave them. Yes, there's always ways that we
might want to check with them on that gift.
There's always ways we can improve, right? And I think we all want to be the best we can. But we're trying to provide them for a world that's going to be tough. And if we could utilize fitness as a resource, that's great. If you get them in the garage and you're fighting for 5 reps, you only get 4, you got to overcome that, right? Or you want to keep pushing. Or for me with Ava, we strength train every morning. That's what we prioritize because she has other stuff going on. And it's a time that we can connect. I think every father should. Here's what's interesting about fitness compared to anything else in life. If I say, hey, dad's working hard, it's very hard for a child to understand what working hard is if you're talking about behind a computer or at work. But when you see your parents sweating, getting after it, dude, they just know what hard work is. So if you could do that with your kids, I think it's really important.
Yeah. Echo, anything else?
I don't want to stay here all day, but so we'll catch up after.
Call it for this one.
We'll call it for this one. Yes, thank you.
Jason, any closing thoughts, bro?
No, I really appreciate the relationship we've developed over the last couple of years. It's been a big goal of mine for I don't know. I probably messaged you first time over a decade ago on social media. Hey man, I'd love to chat with you about jiu-jitsu and fitness and whatever. Mm-hmm. And here we are. So I just wanted to say if you have goals, when the time is right, when the universe aligns, and if you continue to put in the hard work, opportunities will present themselves.
Yeah, we got it scheduled 7 years ago, and here you are. Yeah, man, awesome. Thanks for coming out, bro. And it's, thanks for sharing the information. What you're doing, appreciate what you're doing to help people get stronger, get faster, get healthier. It's just cool to see your path and share these stories. And also, obviously, thanks for what you and your wife do to help continue this battle against cancer. Saving lives, man. And you're saving lives on all front. And it's much appreciated. Thanks for coming out. Sorry it took 7 years, bro.
That's it? Yeah. We'll do it again 7 years from now.
Right on. I'll see you at the Def Reset. Let's go.
Let's go.
And with that, Jason Khalipa has left the building. Can see lots of working out involved.
Yeah.
Lots of being on the path.
Yeah.
If we're working hard, if we're getting as many reps as possible,
yep,
we need some fuel.
Or if we're doing every minute on the minute too.
We recommend Jocko fuel.
Yes, sir, we do. Yeah, very much so.
I kind of went through my protocol, which is a really good protocol at this juncture in time.
What protocol? Oh, the Jocko fuel protocol.
Yep.
Yep.
It's go on the way to the gym. It's get done training. This is jiu-jitsu. Because I don't in the early morning I don't have anything besides water.
All natty, just going in.
Go natty in the morning. That's an early morning.
Huh, that's cool.
But for the jiu-jitsu protocol, go on the way there. Get done with the training. Hydrate. Gonna need it. Yeah. Awfully sweaty. Get home. Mulk. Yeah. By the way, might be having dinner in like an hour, but I'm still having a mulk.
Agree.
Because I need it. I'm going catabolic.
100% agree with that.
You heard Jason talk about joint warfare. You're putting strain on your joints. You're gonna need that joint warfare. So there you go. Check it out. Check out JockoFuel.com. Also, you can get this stuff at Vitamin Shop. You can get it at Wawa. You can get it at GNC, Military Commissaries, Hayfees, Hannaford, Dash Stores in Maryland, Wakefern, ShopRite, HEB down in Tejas. Leif posted up like a full like entire scenario of Jocko Fuel at HEB. Yeah. So appreciate that. Everyone down there in Tejas getting after it. Meyer up in the Midwest, same thing. Harris Teeter, Lifetime Fitness, Shields. And look, you've got a little gym. Like what Jason has, he's got gyms. And guess what they sell at his gyms? Jocko Fuel. Why? He wants his people to be stronger, faster, smarter, and better. So if you want to do that at your gym, your CrossFit gym, your jiu-jitsu gym, your powerlifting gym, your Olympic lifting training facility, your gymnastics gym, whatever, your Globo gym, maybe you got a Global Metroplex gym, you still need some of that Jocko Fuel. Email jfsales@jockofuel.com. You can sell the goodness to your people. So there you go.
It's true. Also, Origin USA, we're doing the jiu-jitsu. You need a gi. You're doing the gi and no gi. So when you put on the gi, best make sure it's a Origin gi. Trust me. Once you go Origin, you don't go back to these other sweatshop abrasive straight jacket gis. Yeah. In fact, bruh, part of the freaking half of jiu-jitsu is making your gi not feel like a straight jacket. That's half of what jiu-jitsu is.
Part of the jam.
Bruh, so don't just out the gate purchase a straight jacket gi. Get the Origin gi. That's the luxury gi right there.
We're not doing that.
No. All made in America, by the way.
All made in America, by the way. So Origin USA, you can get, by the way, you can't wear your gi to the grocery store. I mean, you can technically. You can. You can't wear it to the club. You know, you can't wear it even really, honestly, you really shouldn't be wearing it to a restaurant on a date with your wife. Now, look, it might look good.
Yes.
And your wife might be kind of down for the cause if you post up in your gi
sometimes
for date night. Sure. But there's also a decent chance that would just annoy her and make her think that you're weird. So that's why we have jeans. Yeah. You can get Origin jeans. You can get Origin boots, training gear, right? The RTX gear for training. Got everything that you're going to need for that one.
Which is, by the way, 100% accuracy that Origin jeans are my date night standard uniform. 100% accurate. I'm not saying like sometimes.
No.
It's the standard uniform. Yeah. Origin jeans.
And what does your wife assess them?
Massively approved.
Approved?
Yes.
Kind of a big way.
Very much so. Right. One time I wore jeans to... I think it was to recording. And so I was leaving my standard recording uniform is shorts, by the way. I was wearing jeans. I don't know why.
She thought you were...
My kids thought I was like going somewhere.
For you know? That's like, the same way with my house. They see me put on jeans. They're like, he's going big time. Yep. By the way, everything that we're talking about, you can make clothes, right? If you, let's say you want to be like a t-shirt, you want to make t-shirt sales, or you want to sell your shorts or whatever, you can do that. And you make them in China. And you're supporting sweatshops. We make everything in America. We grow the material in America. We weave the material in America. It's 100% American made. This is how we maintain national security in this country. This is how we maintain economic security, because we have forgotten how to manufacture, and we're bringing it back. So originusa.com. Get yourself some American-made goodness. There you go.
It's true. Also, Jocko Store. Call Jocko Store. Discipline equals freedom. Look, DEF. When we say DEF reset, you know what DEF stands for? DEF. Discipline equals freedom. Yeah. It's true. Discipline does equal freedom. I had to have a discipline equals freedom talk with one of my sons recently. Long story. I'm not going to go into it. We're good. We're good to go. Hopefully it was assimilated. But nonetheless, you want to represent, while we're on this path that Jason was talking about, that we're talking about, you want to represent. Discipline equals freedom. That's where you can get your shirts.
So there you go.
Hats, the whole deal. Also, subscription. If you want a new shirt every month, Discipline equals freedom still, just in a different flavor from time to time. Every month, new shirt, new design.
Maybe you get tired of that chocolate and vanilla, and you want to get some mint chocolate chip.
Sure.
That's what the shirt locker is for t-shirts.
Sure. It's actually more than that. Now you're going to get the mint chocolate chip, then you're going to get the other one, then the next one, the new one, the other one.
The cotton candy?
Cotton candy, whatever you need.
Cotton candy.
Oh, yeah. So it's like a gift, like a Christmas gift every single month.
Yeah.
People seem to like it. Anyway, it's called the Shirt Locker, if you don't know. New design every month. Subscription.
Does Amazon ever deliver anything to your house?
Does Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah, from time to time, for sure.
Whenever Amazon shows up at the house, I always ask my wife, "Oh, you got me a present."
Yeah.
And it'll be like cleaning, whatever.
Yeah, some duct tape or gaff tape.
Whatever. Yeah, like dishwashing liquid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, actually.
And so I'm always like, "Oh, you give me a present?" And she says, "Yeah." And I open it up, and it's like laundry detergent.
Yeah, she's looking at you like, "Hey, Merry Christmas."
Getting nothing. But if you're on that shirt locker, when the package shows up, kind of a big deal.
You see the little X flag on it right there. You're like, that's when you know. That's when you know.
Oh, so check it out. Shirt locker.
That's on Jocko Store, jockostore.com. That's where you can get it.
Check. Subscribe to the podcast. Oh, don't forget about if you need to eat food. Look, we're drinking milk, but we still want to have a steak. Go to primalbeef.com or go to coloradocraftbeef.com. Just the best steak delivered to your house. By the way, it's also like burgers. You ever had a really good burger?
Yes, I have.
Let's face it. Burgers is I bet if you assess death row meals, a good percentage of them are hamburgers. Yeah. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. No, I think you're correct.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're on death row right now and you're listening and you want to have a death row burger for your last meal, go to coloradocraftbeef.com or go to primalbeef.com and order yourself some ground meat. And make it with that 100%.
You were actually correct even in practice. So not last night, the night before, all the primal beef, all of them, the burgers that I had.
Yep.
I took them out. They were getting thawed out. They're like, hey, I'm make as many burgers as you need to for whatever kids, and then I'm gonna make the rest for chili. So I'm like, cool, bro. I took all of them after they were thawed. When you take the paper off of them.
Yep.
I took them all. I just bound them all together, mashed them up all together into this one big, huge burger ball. Put some seasoning in there. Then I made a bunch of like thicker burgers. 0 burgers for the or 0 amount of ground beef for the chili. It was all burgers, death row burgers. Now that you mention it,
death row burgers. Oh yeah, we got it going on.
You stack the double thick one, bruh, all day.
What's the seasoning scenario?
Oh, it was, I don't know the name of it.
Okay. We'll get back to you with the death row burgers.
Yeah, so there's 2 methods of seasoning. I don't want to go too deep into it. I'll go kind of deep into it. There's one seasoning that my younger brother, Yata, turned me on to. I forget what it's called. I'll show it to you later. I forget what it's called, but you just put that on it. That's it. All required. The second one is the seasoning from Costco. They don't sell it. You can't buy it anywhere unless you sometimes can find it on eBay, but it's from Costco. I don't know what it's called either.
And it's out of business now?
No, it's like, I think it's like their seasoning that they use. Like if you go to Costco in the place where you get the steaks, it's for steak. You can say, hey, can I get a little container of that seasoning? And then they'll give you some. And then, but that's the secret one. Whoo, put a little bit of that on it. Oh, man.
All right. Well, make yourself some death row burgers. Primalbeef.com, coloradocraftbeef.com. Great companies doing the right things for the right reasons. Also, subscribe to the podcast. Also, JockoUnderground.com. We got that little other podcast that we do. Adjacent materials, Q&A all the time. Costs $8.18 a month unless you can't afford that. And if you can't, no big deal. Email assistance@JockoUnderground.com because we own that platform and no one's going to kick us off. YouTube, we're on there. Subscribe to that. We also got Psychological Warfare. We got FlipsideCanvas.com. Dakota Meyer making you cool stuff to hang on your wall. A bunch of books, obviously, As Many Reps as Possible by Jason Khalipa. The audiobook is available for sure. So check that out. Also, I've written a bunch of books, Leadership Strategy and Tactics Field Manual. There's a new edition of that. I'm getting feedback. People are really finding that to be pragmatic and helpful in their world. Final Spin, little novel. Stay clean. Written a bunch of other books. You guys know the deal. Kids books. Get the kid books for the kids that you know. Do that. Get the kids books for the kids that you know. That's my recommendations. Way of the Warrior Kid 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Get Mikey and the Dragons. And then, of course, About Face. by Hackworth, which I wrote the forward for the new version, Extreme Ownership, Dichotomy of Leadership. They're all there. Also, Echelon Front, we have a leadership consultancy. We solve problems through leadership. Go to echelonfront.com for details. We just had a sold-out show down in Dallas. We're going to have another sold-out show in San Diego next. So if you want to come to one of our events or you want to do a field training exercise, which Jason talked about today, go to echelonfront.com for details. We also have an online training academy. Leadership isn't an inoculation. You get one shot, now you're good to go. You need to train just like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym once. You go to the gym all the time. So if you have questions about that, or you have questions about leadership, we have questions about life, or you want to take courses about leadership, go to extremeownership.com, get enrolled. If you want to help service members active and retire, you want to help their families, you want to help Gold Star families, check out Mark Lee's mom, Mama Lee. She's got a incredible charity organization to help out all these people that have served. If you want to donate or you want to get involved, go to americasmightywarriors.org. Also, heroesandhorses.org. Micah Fink has taken our veterans up into the wilderness where they can get lost up there so they can find themselves. Also, Jimmy May's organization, beyondthebrotherhood.org. So check that out. If you want to connect with us, well, Jason, he's at th.fit. He's also on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. He's at Jason Khalipa. It's Khalipa. And Echo's at Echo Charles. And I'm at Jocko Willink. And just be careful, because there's an algorithm that literally wants to steal your life from you. Steal your life. Steal your time. It wants to take it away from you and have you scrolling through a freaking screen looking at dumb shit for 38 minutes. You can write a book. You can do a workout. You can do jiu-jitsu. You can go surfing in 38 minutes. Or you can freaking look at a bunch of dumb shit on a little screen that's breaking your brain. So just watch out for the algorithm. It's a monster. And thanks to all of our military out there right now. The world's a freaking tinderbox right now. And it can explode at any moment. And all of you in our military are out there standing the watch. We appreciate and thank you for your service. And also thanks to our police and law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, dispatchers, correctional officers, Border Patrol, Secret Service, all first responders. You're in the same scenario right now here at home. Thank you for protecting us on the home front. And to everyone else out there, the clock is ticking. Time is limited. You don't get a reset. You don't get another chance. Be nice. You could live this life and then just get another chance to do it again, but you don't get it. It is what it is. So what are you going to do with it? How many reps are you going to get? I recommend you know your why. You focus on what you can control. You work hard, shift gears, reevaluate, and I recommend you get as many reps as possible. And until next time, this is Echo and Jocko out.